matter of Kurtz versus Mansfield. Step forward, please.
Engineer Andrew Kurtz is suing teacher Carolyn Mansfield for car repair bills. Andrew says Carolyn's unleashed dog ran into his Porsche.
Mr. Kurtz, you were driving along a country road, and according to your complaint, the defendant's dog was running out and hit your car. And you want Miss Mansfield to be responsible for the $1,000 deductible that you had to pay after your insurance covered the rest of the damage to the car.
That's correct.
Miss Mansfield says that you had to have been going too fast on that road, that your car hit her dog, and that she paid over $1,200 in vet bills for the dog. And since you were probably each at fault, since the dog was out, which is how the dog came to collide with your car in the first place, she's taking care of her bills and you should take care of yours, right?
That's absolutely right.
Well, that's your position anyway.
Yes, well, it is my position.
Where do you live?
I live in Placerville, California.
Are there any rules and regulations where you live with regard to dogs being leashed or being confined in either a yard or your home?
I understand there is a leash law. There's supposed to be.
So your dog, I assume, does not comply with the leash law.
My dog complies whenever she can. However, there are some holes in my neighbor's fence, and occasionally the dog has gotten into the neighbor's yard. On the day in question, I did not know the dog was out of our yard. In fact, my husband and I were getting ready to go to a Christmas party. It's December 21st, about 4 o'clock, and I turned to my son and I said, "We're getting ready to go to the party now. See you later." And Charlie said, "Well, I'm going out to the backyard to play with the dogs." And I turned around, I saw one of our...
How many dogs do you have?
Two. And I saw
what
one
kind
of
of dogs are...
Pardon?
What kind of dogs are they?
They're mutts. They were both strays that eventually showed up, and we just didn't quite get them to the pound, and now they're ours.
And how long have you had them?
7 years.
And how often does this particular dog get out of your yard?
Well, anymore, not at all, but...
Then,
at that time, pretty often.
Okay. So you were on notice that your dog knew how to get out.
But my dog, this is the truth, Judge Judy, my dog is extremely streetwise. I know that sounds crazy, but this dog had grown up, had about 2 years in this area. It was a wild dog. We had seen it around, and I decided to try to tame the dog so that I could catch it. Animal control would not pick it up unless we could contain it. So over a period of about 6 months, I was able to tame the dog, and by then I just kind of fell in love with her. She has absolutely become a part of our family, and this dog never ran into the road or in front of a car. The dog would literally go to a driveway and look both ways before it crossed. People would note that. It's incredibly smart, or it couldn't have survived the 2 years in this neighborhood where people would come up from the Bay Area in their fancy sport cars driving really fast.
Miss Mansfield, listen to me very carefully. We're getting a little beyond ourselves.
Okay, but I have some pictures for you.
We're getting beyond us. Now, what time of the day were you riding down the country road?
It's 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Where were you going?
Going to an apple orchard.
In December?
Shh. Miss Mansfield.
Yes,
Miss Mansfield. Okay.
Is the weekend before Christmas. We're going up there to get some apple cider and some apple pies.
Okay. Tell me what happened with Miss Mansfield's dog.
I was driving along the road, and the dog just came straight out into the road, and it was in full stride when I hit the dog with the car.
Did you stop?
Yeah, I just took my foot off the gas and watched the dog in the rearview mirror. My fiancée, Christina, was just like, oh my God, we just hit a dog. And then I pulled over at the first point that I could pull fully clear of the roadway.
And what did you do? Put your pictures down.
Okay.
We got out of the car and walked back towards where the dog had limped off the roadway, and I walked back into the woods. At that point, I met an old man and a young boy there. I asked them if they saw a dog. I told them I just hit a big black dog, and he said that it sounded like the neighbor's dog, and then we found it just laying on its side.
And what did you do?
The man sent the young boy down to the Mansfield's residence to get someone to come up to the dog. We just stood there with the dog, and it was just laying on its side, panting. And then Charlie, her son, brought a pickup truck up, and we put a blanket down, put the dog on the blanket, and lifted the dog into the back of the truck.
Okay. Can I see pictures of your car? I see
Yes.
that you have pictures of the car there. I'm surprised that what's this dog's name, Lucky?
Lucky.
He sure was lucky.
Well,
because I'm surprised that this dog survived.
Lucky was not supposed to survive overnight. She had severe injuries.
Okay, but she did?
She's among the land of the living.
Good, and she's now in a fenced-in yard.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're using the buried wire with the electric shock, and she's
That sounds like what you should have been using before.
And that's exactly why I paid my own vet bills, and I decided I would not sue somebody for hitting the dog because I was trying to take my responsibility and pay the dog's vet
Ms.
bills.
Mansfield, you have a law where you live that says that dogs have to be under your control at all times, either on a leash if they're out, in a fenced yard, or in your home. But for the fact that you broke the law, your dog would not have been hit.
Mm-hmm. May I show you some of these pictures and explain one thing?
You can show me anything you like.
Okay.
You must accept the fact that but for the fact that you broke the rules, your dog would not have been hit.
Okay, but I contend the dog may not have been in the road. We have a friend who was killed right there where Mr. Kurtz pulled over. He ran right into that tree. If you don't negotiate that turn, you're going to hit that tree. And in fact, before you hit it, you will go straight over our neighbor's driveway.
Listen to me!
Needs to lay down.
Miss Mansfield, I don't care if he went up into your neighbor's living room.
But that would be private
listen to me.
Okay.
If he went up into your neighbor's living room and hit your dog, the rule says your dog must be under your control at all times. But for the fact that you, who had notice that your dog got out frequently and roamed around and was safe most of the time. Most of the time, she was really smart and really lucky. Didn't hurt anybody, didn't get hurt herself. This time she did, and it's your fault.
Okay,
listen to me. Only your fault because his car did not jump up on your front porch and go into your living room and hit Lucky while she was sitting on the sofa watching TV. That didn't happen.
Excuse me, but if it was going at an unsafe speed in a residential area, it could have been Dylan. It could have been the little boy at the end of the driveway with my dog.
It could have been E.T.
But it wasn't.
It was your dog that was violating the law. You owe him $1,000. That's his deductible.
Could my son,
Judgment for the plaintiff. Step out. Goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank you, Judge.
Occasionally dogs get out. If people are driving the way they're supposed to, they should be able to stop.
The dog has to be on a leash or you're going to be liable for the damage that it causes.
My dog suffered great injuries.
It's a tragedy what happened, really.
I spent 3 months doing physical rehabilitation on the dog.
It's been a lot of time and from my side, too, and money.
I couldn't work. I mean, I had to work with this dog for 3 months to get it back to life.
It was very scary.
I just think she deserved a little more justice than that.
I felt awful. Awful for the dog.
Sean, this is case number 231 on the calendar, the matter of Kubas versus Arlene. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Miss Arlene, are you a licensed hypnotherapist?
I'm a certified hypnotherapist, yes.
Certified. Is that what they do?
Yes, there's not a license for hypnotherapy in this state.
Is that the state of California?
The state of California, yes.
And how long have you been a certified hypnotherapist?
For 9 years, Your Honor.
According to what I've read in your complaint, Ms. Kubas, you sought the defendant's services in order to help you stop smoking.
That's correct.
And you are suing her because not only didn't you stop smoking, but you say that she should be responsible for other stress that she put you through because of some vision that she had while she was treating you. Where did you find Miss Arlene?
I found her out of the Yellow Pages, Your Honor.
How long have you been a smoker?
Probably 45 years.
So you figured it was time you stopped?
My sister died of cancer last year, and I desperately wanted to quit. And so I discussed it with my husband about going to see a hypnotherapist because I had been under so much stress and wanted to quit so badly that out of sheer desperation, I called this ad in the paper.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
Yes, out of the...
Please.
Yes, I do. I explained to her my situation, and she told me that it was $295 and that she was 95% effective. The other 5% is usually people that smoke 3 to 4 packs a day. So I felt pretty secure in going to her, and she said, I have an appointment open at 12:30. This was at 11 o'clock. She said, can you be here? I live 50 miles away, but yes, I did go. And when I got there, I asked her how long had she been a hypnotherapist. She said 8 years. After this discussion, she asked me if I wanted to go ahead with it, and I said yes. So she proceeded to hypnotize me, and during this hypnotizing thing, the only thing she said pertaining to smoking was, when I want a cigarette, say to myself, I think I want a cigarette, but not now. Maybe later. Instead, I'll have a handful of grapes. Well, Your Honor, I ate so many grapes, I was having other problems.
Just a second. Just a second. She never promised you anything other than to stop smoking.
She promised me I wouldn't gain weight.
No.
But anyway, she told me after this session, she told me I had to give up Dr. Pepper, sugar, cream, milk, and I drink lots of water. I have a list of the things she told me to take.
Just a second. What date was that, by the way?
That was on July 12th.
Okay, so on July 12th you went there and you were smoking up until the time you got to her office, I assume.
Yes.
When you left her office on July 12th, you tell me that you ate a lot of grapes the next day.
Oh, yes.
But you didn't smoke.
Yes, I did smoke, Your Honor.
How much did you smoke the next day?
I smoked maybe 6 or 8 cigarettes.
Which is a lot less than you would smoke previously.
Yes, but
Okay. When were you supposed to go back?
I was to go back Wednesday on the 13th, or 14th. I was to go back July 14th.
So skip a day. Did you go back on the 14th?
Yes, I did.
What happened when you went back on the 14th?
I had complained to her about my bladder hurting me, and I had told her that I was still smoking. And she said it was probably the toxins emptying out of my body that was bothering my bladder. And she told me that I looked scattered. And I said, it's because I'm still smoking and I'm upset. And she says, well, it's going to take more than the 2 sessions, and it'll take a week. She said, give me a chance. So she calmed me down and took me back and did the same thing almost that she did the first session. Mm-hmm. So I left there feeling a little more calmer, and I was to go back the following day on a Thursday. And when I got there that time, Your Honor, we went back to the therapy room, and the first thing she did was ask me if I knew of anyone with a man with an oval face, a beard, long hair, and lots of wrinkles. And I said, no. And she said, well, could it have been your deceased son? And I said, no, my son was young, and he didn't have a beard. And she said, well, I didn't get a real good look, but she said it may have just had a mustache, because I told her my son had a mustache. The day before, she did something to me during hypnosis of doing something with her hands. I didn't quite understand what it was. She said she realized that she had not done my feet. So she went back to do my feet. And she said when she went to do my feet, she turned and she saw this image that she had described to me, grimacing and cringing in my solar plexus.
In your stomach?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And she said she wasn't going to tell me, but she talked to her psychic daughter, and her daughter said she felt like she should discuss this with me. Well, before the last session, she asked me if it was possible during this hypnosis session if we communicated with this entity. And I said, well, sure. I mean, I felt, what the heck's going on? I said, what could it be? So during hypnosis, she would tap me on the forehead, and she'd say, now ask this person who they are and why they're here. So I said, who are you and why you're here? And no answer. And she'd tap me again for this person to answer me. And this just went on, tapping me. So at the end, I asked him, would he go away or something like that. I couldn't remember it all, but when I came out, she said, well, he did say he would go away. So we got up, the session was over. I was sort of dazed, and I even hugged her and invited her to my home. And then when I got to my truck, I just sat there for a while, and I was thinking, my God, I'm possessed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Judy Cuba says hypnotherapist Donna Arlene failed at getting her to quit smoking. She wants her money back.
Ms. Cubas, what is it that you are suing Miss Arlene for?
Originally, Your Honor, I asked her for a refund so I could go to another hypnotist, someone that would hypnotize me to stop smoking and not do psychic things to me.
And what did she say?
I wasn't the one that asked her for the refund. My husband did.
You asked her for the refund?
Yes,
When did you call her, Mr. Cubas?
I believe I called her on the 21st of July, Your Honor.
Tell me about your conversation.
I explained to her that Frida was very upset and very frightened by the prognosis that she had given about the entity that was in her solar plexus. And I told her we didn't believe in that kind of thing, and I told her that I felt that Frida was entitled to a refund.
And what did she say to you?
She then said, look, I don't give refunds.
Okay. All right, Ms. Harley, I don't believe that based upon the fact that Ms. Cubas may still be smoking, that she is entitled to her money back. She didn't guarantee you that you would stop smoking. She said there's a 95% chance. Well, you may fit into that 5%. Certainly, those people that use gum, patches, pills, all the things that you can get by either prescription or over the counter, if they were 100% effective, then nobody in this country should or probably would be smoking. But the truth of the matter is, some people are successful with them and some people are not. It depends upon a lot of variables. The only question that I have is you signed on for hypnotherapy to stop smoking. I want you to get to this vision.
Okay. On the second session, when Frida came in, we did the session, and many times if I feel a person is troubled or there's negative energy around them, I do a clearance with my hands just of the energy around them before they leave. So I did that. I just brought my hands just to clear the energy around them. Okay? So I just did the clearing the energy, and as I came down to the end and went to brush away from her feet, I saw this entity. It just was, what I saw was just a circle with a man's face that looked grimacing. And it kind of surprised me because I've never had that happen to me. So when I went home that evening, I explained it to my daughter who has psychic abilities. And I just said, you know, something happened today and I'm concerned about it. So I explained to her what I saw, and she goes, I wonder why they would choose to show you that there. And I said, I don't know. And she goes, well, maybe you can help her by telling her, but ask her a couple of questions first. Ask her if she's been having a lot of pain in her solar plexus. Before that, when we first had the consultation, she had shared with me that she had used a psychic over the internet before. And we had talked about being an open spirit. So I asked her these questions, and then I told her, I said, I saw something, and I'm a little reluctant to say anything to you. But since we've talked about this before, I thought maybe it might help you if I shared it with you. It's up to you. And she goes, well, sure. Go ahead. We're both spiritual people. And I said, okay. So I explained to her what I'd seen. And I said, you know, I can't tell you anything about it because it's never happened to me before. I don't know. And
you weren't at that point, and certainly Ms. Cubas doesn't suggest at that point that you were using this as a ploy to get you to become a steady psychic customer.
I'm not sure of that, Your Honor. She did tell me I could come back.
That's different. Did she or did she not, Ms. Cubas, say to you, this has never happened to me before?
I don't remember her saying that because she frightened me so badly.
Okay. You did, Ms. Cubas, however, tell me that she asked you whether you wanted her to share with you this vision that she had had. And you said yes.
Yes, that's correct.
And you also, according to you, when you left, hugged her. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is it that makes you suggest, I mean, there are some people that believe in these psychic sightings and some people that don't. I can't put myself into the head of either one of those groups. But what is it that suggests to you that Miss Arlene was a charlatan?
Because I did not go to her for psychic treatment or that. I went to her to stop smoking. Not once during that session did she say anything to me about not smoking except to eat the grapes when I felt like not having a cigarette. Nothing was ever suggested to me to quit smoking or any suggestions or anything. When she told me about this psychic thing, she said, do you know anyone with an oval face, wrinkles, long hair, and a beard? And I thought to myself,
you already told me that. You don't have a viable lawsuit against the defendant. She is a certified hypnotherapist. She's been practicing for 8 years. That's her treatment plan. It didn't work for you. And the fact that she had this vision, I assume it was legitimate, or at least she perceived it to be legitimate. She asked you whether you wanted her to reveal it to you. You said yes. She did not follow through. I assume that she told you that her daughter has psychic ability. She discussed it with her daughter. Her daughter said it's a good thing to share with her. She shared it with you. She asked you, I'm speaking, she asked you whether or not you wanted her to share it with you. Have you gone to another hypnotherapist since?
no.
No. Are you still smoking?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we're talking about a long time ago. How come you didn't go to somebody else?
Because it frightened me. I wanted to wait to see if I could get to find somebody reputable or that wouldn't do the psychic. Your Honor, she did not ask me anything except if I would like to communicate with this thing after she told me about it.
Ms. Cubas, 2 seconds ago you told me that you didn't remember. Now what you're telling me is you remember, and what she said to you was, do you wish me to find out what this person is, who this person is? And you said, yes.
And this
Okay,
was after
just
she
a
had
second. And you said, yes. You didn't say to her, no, I don't believe in that stuff. I think there's a lot of baloney. I'm here to stop smoking. You said,
yes.
yes. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Pardons are excused. You may step out.
That's one of the best ways to quit smoking.
When I wanted a cigarette, just say,
Play a better game of golf.
I think I want a cigarette,
Get rid of fears, phobias.
but not now, later.
Pass tests. Do public speaking.
I think I'll have a handful of grapes.
I never told her to eat grapes.
Well, how many grapes can one person eat before they start having other problems?
Construction worker David Falk is suing the mother of his child, homemaker Tammy Williams, and her husband Steve for attorney fees due to a restraining order. The Williams are countersuing, claiming David filed false charges with Child Protective Services.
This is case number 219 on the calendar in the matter of Falk versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Mr. Falk, you and Mrs. Williams had a relationship for a brief period of time, I understand from your papers, while her husband was incarcerated.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of that relationship, you have a child, a son.
ma'am.
Her husband was released from prison, and it is your claim that after you made attempts to see your son, they filed false charges of stalking and harassment against you. You want the costs that you incurred as a result of those proceedings. Mr. and Mrs. Williams say that everything that they said in those petitions were true, that you were annoying, harassing, stalking them, that the reason the case was dismissed was because for some legitimate reason they couldn't make it to the hearing, but everything that they said was true. And they are counterclaiming because they say that you called Child Protective Services and made allegations against them as parents of your son.
Yes.
Okay. When did you go to jail, Mr. Williams?
April of 2002.
And how long had you and Mrs. Williams been married up until that point?
We've been married since 1997.
You have children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many children do you have?
3 children together.
When did you start to see Mr. Falk?
Possibly about 2 years ago.
Give me the month and year. Don't ask him, he was in jail.
I was in jail.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you know Mr. Falk?
I think it was around September, somewhere in there.
September of 2002?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was your son born, Mr. Falk?
October 9th, 2003.
Now, when were you released from jail, Mr. Williams?
June the 1st of this year, 2004.
Did you know about this new baby that came into the family?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you find out about this new baby?
I had actually found out while she was pregnant. She did write me and tell me about the relationship between her and Mr. Falk. That is when we started reconciling. We had been separated for a little while I was in prison.
You mean you were separated before you went to prison?
No. When I went to prison, she split up with me because I went back to prison because she told me if I went to prison, she couldn't handle the situation.
How many times have you been to prison, sir?
I've been to prison twice. This was a probation violation, what I went back for.
What were you violated for?
Not paying monies, and I
Not
couldn't
paying
pay the
monies to what?
restitutions on the case.
Not paying restitution. You were violated for not making restitution in what kind of case, sir?
Obtaining property by false pretense, checks, worthless and bad checks.
So how many times were you arrested for writing bad checks?
Several times. I went through a period, I wrote the checks over a period of time.
Over a period of what time?
1998, 1997.
2 years?
Yes, ma'am.
So this wasn't a one-shot deal where you wrote a couple of bad checks and you were arrested?
They were wrote over a few months period, but over 2 years I kept, as they come in and
So
would go
they
to
were
court.
written over a period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
And you cashed them over a period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
As I said, this was not a one-shot deal?
No, ma'am. You're
All
correct.
right.
You're correct.
So that's what your wife... You always get there.
Yeah.
So that's what your wife is saying. She said to you, if you get arrested again, we're finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds right to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, after your husband was released from jail, you decided to reconcile. Is that right, Miss Williams?
Yes.
That was in June, so that your baby was 8 months old.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do?
I accepted my husband for him to come into the home. We worked it out, and everything's...
And what did you do about Mr. Falk and his wanting to see his son?
Mr. Falk has never called. He's only made harassing phone calls or drive by the house.
When did he ask to see his son?
He never has, Your Honor.
Was he present when the child was born?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, there we go. That's a one thing. So when the child was born, he was there.
Yes, Your Honor.
And where did you go after you left the hospital when the child was born?
I think I went to his house.
So you lived with him for a period of time with
No.
the child?
He lived with me in my house. We just...
Fine. He lived with you for a period of time after the child was born?
After the child was born, I don't think he was.
Did you ever spend the night with her after your son was born?
Yeah, I did, because we went down to my mother's house for Thanksgiving and spent the night down there. So we did.
That was in November of 2003, when the baby was just about a month old.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
remember that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So I would assume that for a period of time before your husband got out of jail, there was regular communication between the two of you. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
There we go. That's what I'm trying to get at. Before your husband got out of jail, there was regular communication with Mr. Falk. He was there when the baby was born, took you home from the hospital, you went to visit his mother Thanksgiving time, you went with the baby. Did you take your other children with you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so what happened? Why did you stop allowing him regular contact with his son?
I felt that it was nice for him to see his son, just being a nice mother.
Why did you stop him from seeing his son?
I don't know.
Well, did that coincide with the time when your husband was released from prison?
It wasn't around that time. He was still in prison.
Why did you stop him from seeing his son?
Because I had got this ex parte violence protective order.
Let me see it. That doesn't answer my question, Miss Williams.
Can you
There was a
repeat?
period of time when everything was okay and he was seeing his son and you were visiting his mother and you were traveling as a family practically. Now, something happened when you decided not to let him see his son.
Because he was calling me, making threatening calls.
Something happened before that. You're down visiting his mother in November for Thanksgiving. Christmas. What happened?
I just wanted to end the relationship.
That's right. You wanted to end the relationship. And did you tell him that?
Not in so many words, Your Honor.
What words did you use, Mrs. Williams?
I was mostly avoiding him.
Right. And when you were mostly avoiding him, that means he couldn't see his son. Right? Because you had the child in your custody.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting where I'm going?
Yes, Your Honor.
She wanted to end the relationship. She didn't tell him she wanted to end the relationship. She just started to avoid him.
She's leaving half the stuff out. She's
Listen
so
to
scared.
me.
Yes, ma'am.
I've been around longer than you've
I
been
know.
born. We understand each other.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
not a new story,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
new faces on the story.
Yes, ma'am.
She wanted to end it because you and she, according to you, were coming together.
Mm-hmm.
She wrote you about the baby. You decided to reconcile. She had to break it off. She didn't want to make any trouble by telling him she wanted to break it off, so she just didn't take his phone calls, which means he couldn't see his child. So he started calling her on the telephone. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, Mr. Williams. That's what happened. So then she goes and files this protective order, and she says, he's harassing me. He's driving by my house. He's leaving threatening messages. Well, what did you expect him to do if you wouldn't let him see his child? Did you expect him to go away?
No, Your Honor.
Well, what did you expect him to do? Now, when your husband got out of prison, your husband put his name on the baby's birth certificate. Is that right, Mr. Williams?
Yes.
And you did that knowing that you were not this child's father, and you did that for the explicit purpose of seeing to it that Mr. Falk did not see his son and was not... Oh. Well, what other reason could there have been... What other reason could there have been, Mr. Williams, for you, knowing that you were not the child's father, to put your name on the child's birth certificate instead of the child's father's name?
He never accepted from day one while he was at the hospital to be allowed on the birth certificate. He refused to be put on the birth certificate.
I want to explain something to you, Mr. Williams. That is a lie. No. Because as long as she's married to somebody else, he is not permitted by law to put his name on the birth certificate unless he is adjudicated by a court as the father of the child. I'm 10 steps ahead of you, sir.
Okay.
He took the child home from the hospital. He was there when the child was born. A month later, he went to visit his mother with your wife and your 3 children for Thanksgiving. A month after that, he went to his mother's home for Christmas with your 3 children and the child. And then your wife decides to go back with you. She avoids his telephone calls. He gets miserable and frustrated. You get out of prison, you say, we're going to resolve this once and for all. I'm going to put my name on the child's birth certificate. That's going to cut him off. Well, it didn't cut him off.
May I respond to that, please?
Yeah, you sure may.
He is trying to disrupt us and split us up because he wants Tammy back. I don't have any problem
He doesn't
with
want her
her
back.
father.
Trust me. He doesn't want her back. His mother doesn't want her back. Your wife fooled around while you were in jail.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I make a comment on that, please?
Sure.
I was in church. I was vulnerably hurt. He took advantage of that situation.
Madam, you were married and had 3 children. Nobody took advantage of you. Nobody forced you. Nobody tied you to a bed. You got it? Take responsibility for your own actions. You have to behave in an orderly fashion, which is, if you have a relationship with somebody and you make a baby with them, you don't decide like this, that I'm going to cut him off, which is what you did, without an explanation, without a sit-down, without a discussion. Say, listen, we have to end this relationship because I'm going to go back to my husband. That doesn't mean that I'm going to take the baby away from you. Let's go to court. You'll be declared the father of the baby. We'll set up a visitation schedule. You'll be able to visit with him when you like. Instead, you decide just not to answer your phone. That's what you told me. And then when he gets annoyed and starts making harassing phone calls, you go to court and you get an ex parte protective order against him. And then when it's set for trial, you don't show up. And it's dismissed. Those are the costs he wants.
Excuse me.
She didn't show up. Now, you say she had a really good reason for not showing up. Show me a doctor's record that she was in a hospital.
Actually, we were in Superior Court in another county.
For what?
A 4-year-old check that they're trying to bring up now that I've paid off.
That didn't stop her from going to court, sir.
She was the witness in my case.
Did you notify the court?
Yes, we did.
Show me where you notified the court before.
I didn't know I needed it today.
Well, where'd you think you were coming to, a tea dance?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, David Falk says the mother of his child, Tammy Williams, falsely accused him of stalking and harassment. David also claims Tammy and her husband won't let him see his son.
What were your costs with regard to defending this action for a protective order?
$3,800. I had to hire a lawyer.
Let me see the lawyer's bill. Did you pay this bill?
I paid $1,800 so far.
Mr. Falk, what arrangements are you trying to make legally to get to visit with this child?
Try to get complete custody of him. I've got that filed now.
Did they order blood tests?
We're in the process of getting that done now, too. It's got to be a court order because she refuses to give DNA.
No.
No what?
We were actually told by our attorneys that he was wanting to drop this now because I'm willing to take responsibility for the child and be the child's father.
That right, sir?
Ma'am, it's still
That come
pending.
from his
It's pending
attorney.
August the 22nd.
So what you're telling me now, Mrs. Williams, listen to me very carefully, is if the court wants you to go for a blood test, you are consenting to go for a DNA test with this baby.
Yes, ma'am.
Fine. Do you understand? Now, as part of this proceeding, there is a counterclaim. The counterclaim suggests, Mr. Falk, that you called Child Protective Services on them. Show me.
We did have the letter, and we cannot find that cleared her.
I just want, listen to me. I just want proof that he called Child Protective Services and it was false.
That's the one thing we did not have. Sorry.
Well, Mr. Williams, I can't help you, sir.
I know.
Okay. You owe him $3,500, which is what he paid for his lawyer for this bogus case that you filed against him, Miss Williams. Listen to me very carefully. You made a mistake. You had an affair while your husband was away. He's the father of this child, according to you. He wants to see this child. He wants to be part of this child's life. Now, that may be inconvenient for you because you are now reconciled with your husband. That doesn't mean you can cut him off. If he chooses not to be a good father, if he chooses not to support the child once he has an order of visitation, and if he chooses to abandon this child, then you can cut him off. But you can't decide to do that on your own. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's made frivolous things that I am abusive to my wife and children.
She had told everybody at the church her husband was abusive towards her and the kids.
He shot his ex-wife.
She was the one chasing after me.
Because he's beat her, she's scared to say anything.
She told me she wasn't going to go back to her husband, and, you know, he was so mean.
I can't take my children to shopping in the same county we live in.
The Lord will take care of it, and he did. The Lord brought it out right here.
Beverly Grogan is suing her son, 28-year-old DJ Patrick Patterson, and his wife, 24-year-old market manager Selena Patterson, for unpaid rent and for extensive damage to her home.
Yeah, that's case number 207 on the calendar in the matter of Grogan versus Patterson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mrs. Grogan, this is your son and this is his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
Who is this gentleman?
This is my husband.
Are you afraid to stand up?
No, ma'am.
Good. Stand up next to your wife. Are you his father?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so this is your second stepfather. How long have the two of you been married?
2 years.
2 years?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
It's good that you remember.
Yes, ma'am. It's usually the other way.
Yes. Okay. And there was some sort of a problem that occurred between you and your son.
Yes, ma'am.
And you evicted them.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you went back into the house, you saw some extensive damage. So
Yes,
you
ma'am.
want him to be responsible for the rent that he owes you, as well as for the damage that he did to the house.
Yes, ma'am.
And your son says that there was never an agreement to pay rent, that there was an agreement that he pay your insurance, some sort of insurance, that he paid that faithfully, and he's going to prove to me that he paid that faithfully, and that was the only agreement that you had with regard to finances, and that you are, according to him, a meddling lady who wants to control his life, and when you had a fight with him, you hit him over the head with a soda bottle, and he and his wife and children moved out of the house, and he caused absolutely no damage.
Correct.
Do you work, Mr. Patterson?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a DJ.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you work for?
I'm an assistant market manager.
Okay. So you have two incomes. What are you doing living in your mother's house?
She told me that it was my house for years. Her and my father bought the house when I was younger, and I've always lived there. So she bought her another home and moved it in behind us, and she told us that we could live there. She said, as long as you help me out with my insurance, there's no rent or anything.
Okay. Tell me what the insurance was every month.
$278.
$278.
That's what we pay a month.
What other expenses did you pay on the house, Mr. Patterson?
I replaced some doors.
No, expenses, regular expenses.
As in...
Heating, utilities.
Yeah, we
paid the utility bill and the phone bill. but they were also in her name.
I don't care whose name they were in. You were living there.
Yes, ma'am. I paid them.
Okay.
Until she come down and cut them off in 100-degree heat with my kids in the house.
Okay, well, you had a fight with them. You had a fight with your mother.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you have a fight with your mother?
I don't recall the exact date.
Give me the month.
May.
May.
And how long had you been living in the house up until that point?
I've been there 7 years.
But she left for a period
of 2 years.
2 years and come
and
back.
I come back September 2001.
When she was pregnant again.
Ah, so you've been living there on and off for the last 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're telling me, Miss Grogan, that your son and his wife never paid rent?
They paid rent one time.
One time?
One time.
When?
I don't even remember it.
It was so long ago.
It was so long ago, I don't remember.
Oh, okay. And you filed eviction proceedings against them after this May argument?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you tell me, Mr. Patterson, about the argument?
She asked me for part of the cool ceiling, the trailer.
Part of the what?
Cool ceiling of the mobile home.
I don't understand what that...
It's a seal that goes on top. It's supposed to make the house cooler, and it seals it up from any leaks or anything occurring.
Okay, so she asked you for that?
She asked me for half, yes, ma'am. And I told her that I'm hard-headed, so she told me that I was going to pay it.
Just a second. So she said, she asked if you would pay it, and then you probably said no.
I said, if I have it, I will. And she said, well, you're going to pay it.
Okay, so you said, if I had it, I would pay it.
If I have it at the time. She wanted it later on in the week, and I said, if I have it at that time, I will give it to you. But she said, well, you're going to pay it, and I come back honest from her. If you're going to pay it. And at that point, when she told me I was going to pay it, I would have died before I would have paid it then. To be honest with you.
So what did you say to your mother, who's allowed you to live rent-free in the house with your wife and 2 children for 7 years?
After she got on the porch, she made some more threats.
What did you say to her? I don't care what she said to you. She can wipe. She brought you into this world. She can take you out. What did you say to her?
You can't say it in a courtroom, really.
Oh, you can say anything here, sir. We have the ability to go, bleep, bleep.
I told her, you.
Nice.
So
let me see what I got here. I got a mother. How many children do you have, Miss Grogan?
We have none.
One.
You have one.
Just one.
Him. See what happens when you put all your eggs in one basket?
But if I can
Just a second. Let's see what we got here, Mr. Patterson. We have a mother who allows you and your wife to live rent-free in her home. And she comes down and she says to you, listen, you don't pay any rent in the house. The house needs some repairs on the outside. I want you to pay, not the whole thing. I want you to pay half. And you say to her, if I had it. And she says to you, oh, you're going to have it. And then you curse at her.
That was only after a few more arguments. I mean, we went on arguing. This happened when we got outside. And then she turned and threw a bottle at me and hit me in the head with a bottle.
Sure did.
And she denies that. My little girl said
You
it.
are lying. You were in the house.
No,
My
it
little girl
wasn't.
asked me
Miss
every
Grogan,
day
Miss
of
Grogan.
my life why her Grammy hit her daddy in the head and why every time they go over
Because
there,
he had a big fresh mouth.
she has no reason.
Listen to me. Because he had a big fresh mouth.
Well, so does she.
I want you to face left.
I'm sorry.
Your other left.
Okay.
You see this woman?
Yes, ma'am.
20 years from now, you won't remember what she looks like. Now I want you to turn around and face right.
What do you think?
That's your mother. 20 years from now, she's still going to be your mother. Look at me. You know how I know that? Because I'm smart. And because statistically, there is more than a 50% probability in this country that you won't remember what she looks like unless you see her occasionally at your children's weddings. So that this lady is somebody that you don't tell to go bleep yourself. And I don't care what kind of trouble Missy Moo Moo over here tries to make. Your mother helped you for 7 years. Now, I'm going to tell you, sir, that I believe you only about one thing. I believe you that there was never an agreement with your mother to pay rent. See that? I'm a reasonable gal. I know what's right and I know what's true. She's angry and she's hurt because probably at this point she has you. You're her only son. You have 2 children. She hasn't seen her grandchildren. That's a very painful thing for her. So, listen, Missy Mumu over here is shaking her head yes. I'm talking to you, not her. The one that you're not going to remember 20 years from now? I don't remember. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about your mother who's taken care of you, changed your pants, took care of you when you were sick, took care of you when you had a fever, brought you up, fed you, clothed you, educated you, took care of you for a very long time. This isn't somebody you cut off from her grandchildren. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Just remember what I said when I told you to look left. Now, did you or your wife cause any damage to this house when you left?
One thing.
What?
I was gone to move a bed, and when I come back, we seen smoke coming out of the bathroom window, so I went down there. Maybe she left a... They never determined what it was. I think maybe a candle, maybe it's...
You mean your wife?
Yes, ma'am. And the wind blew the curtain, and the curtain caught on fire, and I put it out. I feel like it could have been fixed with some paint.
Okay. So you would agree, Mr. Patterson, would you not, that this accident that you say was caused by your wife negligently leaving a candle burning in the bathroom is your responsibility to fix?
Yes, ma'am. But I don't...
There you go.
I don't think it was as bad as it was said.
All I'm going to do is look at her bills to fix it. That's all.
The bills were fixed by an ex-husband.
I don't care who they were fixed by. I don't care if they were fixed by Howdy Doody. I want to see a paid bill to have it fixed because that is minimally your responsibility. You would agree with that?
Yeah, but not as bad as it says. They say it is.
Can I please see the bill to fix the bathroom that was damaged as a result of his wife leaving a candle burning and a wind blowing through the window and catching on fire the curtains, which caused damage that might have been fixed by just some paint?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today, Grogan says her son Patrick Patterson and his wife Selena Patterson owe for unpaid rent and for damage to her home. Beverly says Patrick and his wife burned down the bathroom.
Where are you living now?
In a mobile home.
Who rented it to you?
I bought it.
How much money did you put down on it?
$500.
How much do you make in mortgage payments?
$500 a month.
Let us assume that for the past 5 years, not 7, 5, because that's how many years you lived in your mother's house with Missy over here, that you paid your mother what you're paying on a mortgage. That's $500 a month. $500 a month times 12 times 5 years is $30,000. That's how much you saved by living in your mother's house. $30,000. Now, if you didn't put that away, that's your problem. But you don't move out of a house and leave it like a pigsty, which is what you did.
We couldn't clean it up. Every time we went over, we get cussed out.
It shouldn't have gotten to that point. These photographs that I'm seeing didn't happen in one day. They happened over a very long period of time.
She always told me that was my place. I even told the preacher that was my place. It belonged to me.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,580. Just remember what I said to you, sir. Look over there. You won't remember that face unless one of your kids looks like her in 20 years. Do you understand? This is always going to be your mother. You're making a big mistake and you're being very unfair to your children. You're being very unfair to your children if you don't allow your children to have a relationship with your mother when she's had a relationship with them over the last...
I have no problem with her having a relationship with me.
Great.
He has refused. I have called him and called him and called him and asked him to bring the children over.
So he says he has no problem. So you're going to bring your children over on Sunday morning?
Yes, ma'am.
What time do you want him to bring the children over?
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock for a visit?
Yes, ma'am.
For an hour. Great.
Yes,
Every Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that reasonable?
Yes, ma'am.
That's fine.
Done. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When he put his hands on me and he threw me down to the ground, I knew then that You know, we need at some point it had to stop.
What can you say? I mean, you have to go by what she says, but don't agree with everything.
I was hoping he would learn from it. I love him, and I love Selena.
He's not there anymore. He's making a family with me and his 2 kids. That's the problem with her, which is fine. We'll see where he is in 20 years.
And the control problem is not with me. It's with his wife.
And now,
All parties in the matter of Denton versus Clevenger, step forward, please.
computer analyst Julia Denton is suing her sister-in-law, student Patricia Clevenger, for the cost of a '96 Toyota RAV4. Julia says Patricia's husband totaled the vehicle.
Mrs. Denton, is this your brother?
Yes.
And this your sister-in-law?
Yes.
According to your complaint, several years ago, your husband passed away.
Yes.
You say it was in 2001.
That's correct.
When he passed away, one of the things he had was an automobile that was in his name. You had a car, and you agreed to, at that time, let your brother and your sister-in-law use that car.
Correct.
Until the estate was settled, and with the understanding that when it was settled, you would sell them the car. Was that your agreement?
Well, we actually didn't make that agreement. When I loaned them the car to begin with, we didn't make that agreement. It took a long time for the estate to be settled. It wasn't settled until the end of May of 2004. As it got closer to that date, then we started talking about selling them the car. That was my intention, to either sell it to another party or sell it to them if they were still interested in buying it.
Once the estate was settled?
Right, because I was not able to sell any of the assets. He did not have a will, and I was the administrator of his estate. Right.
Okay. Now, you gave them the car to use from 2002, according to your complaint, until 2004. Now, my question to you is, in whose name was the car titled in 2004?
The title was in my late husband's name until after the accident.
Now, according to you, you insured the car up until May or June of 2004.
Correct.
And then sometime in May or June, you found out that you had started to insure the car.
I did insure the car. After,
when?
In May, after her mother told me that she was no longer carrying insurance on the car.
Okay, so you started to carry insurance on the car, even though you had no insurable interest in the car.
At that point, we felt like the car had been given to us. We had already tried to return the car several times. She said she had no use for the car.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's a lie.
I'll get there. And at some point, about a month or so later, your husband had an accident with the car and it was totaled.
Yes.
And you got a check for how much?
$4,687.
Which you feel rightfully belongs to you.
Correct.
And you feel none of that belongs to her because it was your insurance policy.
Correct.
What do you think?
She gave us the car.
Stand up.
She gave us the car 3 years ago. We offered to give it back to her several times. She didn't want the car back. She had 2 cars and 1 driver.
Yes.
She had a Corvette.
Well, what did you say? I'm just curious. What did you say when you offered to give her the car back?
I said, here's the RAV back. You know, you can have it back. She said, no, keep it. Drive it. That's exactly her words. Keep it.
Now, why did you bring it over there?
Well, actually, I brought it over there to make sure that I wasn't encroaching upon her, to make sure that it was a gift, and if she wanted it back, she could have it back.
So you brought it back to her to see if you were encroaching?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Miss Denton. When did you have the first conversation with regard to the estate settling and some papers that would necessarily have to be exchanged?
I found out that they had started to insure the car on June 17th. Up until that time, I carried full coverage insurance on the car.
Do you have any proof of
Yes,
that?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Put your hand down. Now, this car was a 1996 Toyota?
Yes.
It was insured until the 17th of June, 2004. Not May. It's insured until 17 June, 2004.
Okay.
Full coverage. So you are mistaken that the car was not insured after May. So whoever gave you the information was mistaken.
That would be their mother.
Well, I don't know who it was, but certainly you didn't verify that with her, right?
No, I did not.
Right.
What had happened was, Your Honor, because I had been paying the insurance the whole time, I would give the little cards to my mother, because she lives in the same town they do, to go and give to them, and I had given her the wrong card. And she looked at the date and told them that there must not be insurance on the car because it's expired. They got insurance without my knowledge.
I don't see how they could get insurance. They had no insurable interest in the car.
It was a gift.
You had no insurable interest in the car. That's a matter of law. The car is not in your name. It would be like you deciding that you like the look of Bird's car and saying, I'm going to take out insurance on his car just in case he has an accident. And if he has an accident, I can collect on his car. You have to have an insurable interest in the car. The car was not in your name. And it's not something that is worth family feuding over. Sir, you have to use common sense. If she gave you the car, then the common sense would be, I cannot transfer the title to you in this car until the estate is settled, and that may take several years. But I'm giving you the car. But while I may give you the car, I'm not going to give you the car and pay for your insurance too, because that would be stupid. Put your hand down, troublemaker. Do you understand, sir? I'm ignoring your wife because she is not related to this lady, and you are.
Yes, ma'am.
So she doesn't care if she makes trouble, this one, but you should care if she makes trouble. If your sister was giving you the car as a gift, I would say to my brother, David, I want you to have this car. We can't do the paperwork on it right now. All you have to do is you take care of the maintenance, you take care of the insurance, you take care of all the expenses on the car, and at the appropriate time, I'll just transfer the title over to you. I would not say to him, I'm going to pay for all the expenses, including the insurance on the car.
She didn't pay for all the expenses.
The insurance! No, she's supposed to pay the expenses. I mean, something wrong with you? You look like a perfectly healthy man. Do you work? Are you employed?
Yes, I am.
Then why should she pay for the expenses? You're driving. Listen to me. Listen what you did with your wife. You had the full use of a car for 2.5 years. You had it fixed when it needed to be fixed. You put gas and oil in the car. You did whatever you had to do. Somebody else paid for the insurance. Then, at the 11th hour, because your wife got some misinformation, you insured the car. You had not paid for the car. And you came into a windfall of almost $5,000 for something that wasn't yours. Listen to me, sir. Under your theory, if you had had the car in April, which you did, of 2004, and if you had had an accident and she was paying for the insurance at the time, who would have gotten the insurance money? I'm not asking. Put your hand down.
She obviously would have gotten it.
Right. She would have gotten the money. Would you have sued her?
Her insurance would have also paid for it.
Ma'am, I wouldn't sue a family member.
Right, because you would have done the right thing. And the right thing is you don't come away with a windfall of almost $5,000, which is outrageous. Outrageous.
We did have medical expenses after the wreck.
Whose fault is that? Hers?
No, but her insurance would have paid it if she was carrying insurance.
Whose fault is that? Hers? If you had medical insurance, sir, nobody would have had to pay medical insurance for you. You would have had taken care of it with your medical coverage. And if you're a working person, I assume your wife is working. She looks like she's an able-bodied person. You should have medical insurance.
I'm a student.
She's a full-time student.
She's too old to be a full-time student if she has other responsibilities.
I am a full-time student.
Okay. You owe $4,687. Judgment for the plaintiff. No good deed goes unpunished, madam.
Thank you very much.
Why does that excuse me? Step out.
The last 4 months have been a strain, not just financially, but through the family and everything else.
The closeness of my family and the warmth and feeling of a brother and sister relationship.
She's being vindictive.
It was my car. I paid everything on it. They were borrowing the car.
She's being vindictive about a car she gave us.
It doesn't have anything to do with me being vindictive or anything else. I just wanted what was mine to be mine.
I think this whole thing was ridiculous.
The whole thing is upsetting to me.
If she would have just been a little bit more compromising, we would have never been here.
There's nothing else I could do. I'd already loaned them $3,500.
It's usually whatever makes Julie happy when she gets what she wants.
My sister did us a favor 3 years ago, and then 3 years later says, you owe me this.
My husband worked very hard for that vehicle and for everything that we had, and it's not theirs.
I don't have a sister anymore.
I agree with him. I don't have a brother anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Joyce versus Morales. Step forward.
25-year-old wholesale account manager Marlena Joyce is suing her ex-roommate, 22-year-old mortgage assistant Rachel Morales, for unpaid rent and for damages she caused to their apartment. Rachel says she moved out because Marlena's boyfriend moved in.
Miss Joyce, you and a friend decided to move to San Diego, not this person, and you leased an apartment with this friend. Shortly after you leased the apartment in September, the friend decided to move home, leaving you with the apartment. You found the defendant, and she said she also needed a place to live. You agreed that she would move in practically immediately. Mm-hmm. On what date did your friend move home?
Did he move back?
Yes.
August. No exact date. I don't remember the date.
So in September, you had to come up with rent.
Mm-hmm.
And what date did Miss Morales move in?
First week of September?
September 7th, actually, due to the fact she had a house guest already there.
You moved in September 7th.
Mm-hmm. But she had all her stuff in before he moved.
That's why
before
I
he
paid
came
you
to
the
visit.
rent for it.
Shh, don't fight with each other.
Sorry.
You moved in September 7th, and you paid rent.
I gave her the check on September 1st because I had movers bring my belongings already.
How much did you give her?
$725 total.
And that was your agreement?
Mm-hmm.
And you moved out on October 7th.
My physical belongings, October 7th, yes. I stayed, after our argument, I left that night and never returned. But because my stuff was there, I felt I owed her those 2 days.
You left on October 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct? And she paid you for a month's rent on September 7th.
Mm-hmm. No, ma'am.
Shh. Sorry. Listen to me. So far, you're losing. You have to listen. Listen. Open up your ears. Put on your listening ears, okay? The rent was $725. You gave her $725. You gave her $725. You moved in, according to you, on September 7th because she had a house guest. You moved out on October 7th. That's what you just told me.
Yes, ma'am.
So then I'm asking you, what do you want?
On October 1st, she paid rent. We got into an argument at work because she didn't want my boyfriend at the house, at her house.
Well, at the house that she was paying rent on, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you move out?
The reason when I first moved in, we decided no boys. And I gave her the 7 first days in September for the fact she had her boyfriend for Virginia visiting. And I'm like, that's rude of me to be the third wheel. We decided no boys. Like, that was the whole thing. No sports,
You mean
no
no
nothing.
boys sleeping over?
Sleeping over. And then she meets this guy 2 weeks later on a Saturday. His physical...
Slow down.
I'm
Slow
sorry.
down.
His physical...
Slow
okay.
down.
She met him on a Saturday, and he moved in on Tuesday. Physically
That's not
moved
true.
in.
Shh, don't answer her.
The reason I know this is because every day on my lunch I go home, and he was there when she wasn't there. I would go home my lunch,
So
and he was there.
the boyfriend sort of moved in.
Yes, and I physically saw him moving his stuff in, doing laundry that day. And I'm like,
okay.
Yeah.
Now, was the argument that you had with her, Miss Joyce, over the boyfriend? That's what you said?
Yeah.
And she said to you, I don't want to share my house with...
And I told her, you haven't given me a penny for the deposit. Your name is not on the lease. Until I see anything for the deposit, this is not your house.
Okay.
You're staying...
All right, got it, Miss Joyce, I got it. Now, I'm asking you, Miss Joyce, she was there for a month. She paid you for a month. What are you suing her for?
She moved out without giving me a 30-day notice.
She doesn't have to give you a 30-day notice. You breached your agreement with her. She doesn't have to give you 30-day notice, period. You breached your agreement with her. Your agreement with her was that the two of you were going to be sharing this apartment together. You moved in a third party who was not paying rent.
No,
Next!
nobody moved in.
Next!
Nobody moved in.
Listen to me. Next. What are you suing her for?
Damages her dog did to my carpet.
Well, did you have a dog?
Yes, I did.
Did you have a dog?
Yeah, she's in dog care, though.
Just a second. You had a dog and she had a dog. So what you're talking about is some dog peeing on the carpet. Is that right? You have scientific proof to establish to my satisfaction, Miss Joyce, that it was her dog and not your dog?
We both know it was her dog.
Well, she doesn't know that.
I know. She knows. She would have me run inside before guys would come to the house to clean up her dog's poop. So when she brought the guy inside, the house would be clean. My dog stays in a cage, and he has his puppy pads.
Miss Joyce, grow up. It didn't work out. You did the wrong thing. You don't bring a third person into the house and say to your roommate, suck it up. You don't do that, because what you did was say, suck it up. You didn't pay your deposit, therefore, and you're not on the lease, so you can't tell me who to have in my house. She's already paid you $725 for the privilege of being able to say who she wants in her home. Do you understand that?
She never
Goodbye.
talked to me.
Excuse you, may step out.
If she had a problem with my boyfriend staying at the house, she should have told me, which she never told me until we got into a little argument.
You can't meet someone on Saturday, move him in on Tuesday, and expect that to be okay with me.
She was jealous that I had a boyfriend.
He moved in, and she just wants to deny that.
And then she just didn't like it.
I'm never having a roommate again, at least a female one.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Donor versus Spexer. Step forward, please.
Office manager Denise Donor is suing her former friend, bartender Shelley Fexer, for unpaid loans to pay her bills. Shelley is countersuing, claiming Denise stole her belongings.
Ms. Donor, the defendant was a former friend of yours. And
yes, she was.
You lived together for a while.
No, I lived with her mother. She did not live at the house.
You lived at her mother's house.
Correct.
She didn't live there ever?
No, she lived it with her boyfriend.
According to your complaint, you made a loan to her.
Correct.
And she did not pay you back.
Correct.
Ms. Fexer, according to your answer, there was never a loan. The plaintiff paid some bills for you because she was a friend and you had fallen on hard times. And you claim that she took some of your property when she moved out of your mother's house.
Right.
And you are counterclaiming for several $1,000s. Ms. Donor says that the only thing she took was that piece of luggage, I assume. She's more than willing to give that back to you. When was this loan made, Ms. Donor?
It started in August of 2002 up until June of 2003.
Okay, let's start with the first loan. What amount and what for?
When I moved out there in the house with her mom, she asked me if I could...
Were you paying her mother rent?
Yes, I was. She asked me if I could help her out by paying some credit card bills because she didn't have any money. She wasn't working a steady job. She's a bartender, and it wasn't real steady for her.
How long do you know her?
A little over a year.
So you were good enough friends for her to come and ask you for money?
Yes.
And you felt close enough to her to give her the money?
Yes, I did.
How much did you give her in August of 2002?
August, it was only $200, ma'am. She flew to Chicago to help me pack my house out of Chicago.
So then why should she owe you $200?
She agreed to pay for her flight. I paid for everything else on the drive back, the gas, the food, the hotels.
Really? So let's start with that one.
I tried to pay for my own ticket to help her move, which is a little ridiculous.
Well, that sounds ridiculous to me.
It really is. And she obviously charged me for it later.
No, it's ridiculous to me. That doesn't sound normal. If somebody's coming to help you pack and help you drive back, they don't pay for their own ticket. What's next?
Payments I made to her credit card companies on her behalf at her request.
When?
In September, October, November, December, January, February, April, and then June.
And what was the total amount of those?
A little over $2,200 and something.
You made those payments directly to the credit card?
Directly to the credit card company.
Tell me why.
Because she agreed to pay me back once she got a regular job again.
Well, when did you go back to work?
I was out of work about 3 months.
When did she go back to work?
About 3 or 4 months later at the Home Depot.
So did she go back to work in December?
She was working in December, yes, Your Honor.
Okay, was she working in November?
No.
Okay, so she went back to work in December. When was the last time you paid her credit card?
In May of 2003.
How much did she pay you between December 2002 and May of 2003?
$170.
Well, why is it, madam, that you continue to make payments for her when she was working in Home Depot in December? Your agreement was that she would pay you back when she got a steady job. She got a steady job, and you continued to pay her credit cards. Why, Miss Donor?
Because she was not making enough money to afford her bills at the house as well as her own credit cards.
Well, but I don't understand. What kind of relationship did you enjoy with this defendant that would suggest to me that it's logical that you should pay her bills?
We were very close friends. She was like a sister to me. I would do practically anything for her that she asked me.
Well, then what happened, Miss Donor?
Well, we used to do a lot of drugs, and when I quit using, that's when our friendship basically dissolved, and I decided to move down a different road than she did. The rest of them, when we would be out, if she asked me, we'd be at the Target or something, she'd ask me for like some personal hygiene products or some
not interested
stuff
in that.
for that.
That's not what courts are set up to do. I'm not going through a laundry list of feminine products.
Right,
that you,
exactly.
that you
I understand.
You understand that, Miss Donor. You have receipts that you paid $2,200 and some odd dollars in credit card bills.
Correct. I have the canceled checks.
For the defendant, and she doesn't deny that. Is that right?
That's true, yes.
Okay. And you paid her back, according to you, $500.
Yes. I was making payments to her right before she moved out of my mother's house. I had a good job, was making payments, because she said, don't worry about the payments. Whenever you get it, give it to me.
Excuse me, Your Honor,
Okay,
she's lying.
shh. Now.
My apologies.
Now. Fine. So she said, whenever you have it, you'll give it to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, and you said?
I did give it to her whenever I had it. I paid her a couple payments, and she said, do you want a receipt? And I said, no, I didn't need a receipt. We were friends.
How much did you give her?
A total of $500.
Show me.
I can't. It's on. I marked it on my calendar, just that I paid her.
Let me see the calendar.
Okay.
And make sure it's a calendar that I'm not going to find suspect.
I gave her receipts for every time she gave me cash, Your Honor.
No, you did not.
Shh, don't fight with each other. I don't understand what figures are you telling me I should be looking for here?
Just June and July in the red. Says
June
paid.
and July is a couple of dollars. $40, $20,
Right.
$20, $50,
Right.
maybe $200.
Right, correct.
Where's the $500?
Well, that's like $200, and I gave her $2 more.
Well, show me where.
Well, I don't have the calendar. She has it.
She says you gave her $179. So you giving me a calendar, you say you gave her $200. Okay, that's $2,000 left. What happened to the rest of the money?
Well, I was paying her, and also when I first met her, she didn't want me to go back to work after the first bar I worked at closed. She said, just be my personal assistant and I'll pay you, And we traded. I drove her around. I introduced everybody I know, did things for her. Whatever she asked, I do. But I still was paying her back the money when I had it. I guess in June or July, we went to Austin, Texas together for my mother's birthday. And she charged me for the ticket, which she did not pay for. I don't owe her all this money. And then that's when we probably had our falling out. She just acted weird. I think she wanted a different relationship than I was willing to give.
You owe her $2,000. Now let me hear about your counterclaim, madam.
When she moved out of my mom's house, my mother was asleep, and I wasn't there.
Your mother helped me move out.
I don't want you to speak.
Okay.
Until I look in your direction or ask you a question.
Okay.
And she had two friends come help her, and she didn't call.
Were you there?
No.
Well, then, how are you telling me this?
Well, because the girl that helped her actually told me some things.
That's hearsay.
Right. Well, the things that were missing when she left the house that weren't hers.
Doesn't tell me anything.
That weren't hers. They weren't her
Doesn't tell
items.
me anything.
Right. She went through all my pictures, rearranged them all for me. These are all missing. Pictures when I didn't even know her.
You have to have proof, madam.
Right. And you know what? She's taken any proof that I have. She's
Well,
taken
then I
the
can't
pictures.
help you. I can't help you. Give her back her suitcase, please.
Okay.
Yeah, it's her suitcase.
Yes, it
Miss
is.
Donor said that that's your suitcase. Is this your suitcase?
Right, and
Ms.
I do have
Flexer?
receipts from that one. That's the only thing I have receipts from, because she took all the receipts when she took the items, if I had any. I know I can't prove it.
So if you can't prove it, then don't waste my time with it. There's your suitcase, a very nice piece of luggage. You owe the plaintiff $2,000. Pay her. Thank you very much.
Parties are excused. Step out.
I think that she's in love with me.
My boyfriend would be shocked to understand that I had, quote unquote, supposedly likings for her.
Just a few of her actions, she was a little too friendly.
She doesn't know the truth if it would come up and bite her in the butt.
She'd do anything to make herself look good.
Crystal meth makes you do stupid things, and as you can see, the defendant is still using.
I think she got obsessive.
Shelley's a drug addict. She has been, and she always will be.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter, White versus Griffin. Step forward.
20-year-old student Vincent White is suing his college classmate, 22-year-old Bobby Griffin, for vandalizing his car. Bobby claims Vincent was spreading rumors about her and her friends.
You all go to college together?
Yes.
Got the idea? All right. Mr. White, it is your claim that Miss Griffin vandalized your car.
Yes.
And Miss Griffin says, well, she in fact participated in the vandalizing of your car. She sprayed it with a fire extinguisher or something, but it was not the defendant who caused the major part of the damage. It was friends of hers who keyed your car, and she feels as if she took responsibility by giving you $8 for car wash, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, first we're going to find out a little bit about it, and then I'll deal with your erroneous assumption. Why did you vandalize his car?
He was going around spreading rumors about me and my friends. We tried to confront him at the dorm.
When was he allegedly spreading rumors about
This
you?
was around November the 11th, 2004.
What was he saying?
He was calling me and my other friends, and we were trying to confront him about what happened, or why was he going around saying this when he knows it's a lie.
Okay. He was calling you bad names.
Yes, ma'am.
And you and your friends tried to find him?
Yes, ma'am.
To confront him?
Yes, ma'am.
How many friends?
It was me, Stephanie Gates, Yolanda, and Natalie.
So you and your friends went to look for him?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we were already at the dorm, so we were calling, and he's like, well, I'm going to be where I'm at. So we go to his room.
What year of college are you in?
I'm a freshman.
And what about you?
I am a sophomore.
And he said to you, I'm going to be where I'm at?
Yeah.
I would say, stay with it.
So we go to his room, you know, to see if he's in there. But his roommate, he was saying that he wasn't in there. The other girl that was with us, Natalie, she went and took the fire extinguisher and broke the door handle. I didn't know about this incident until I was walking down the breezeway when his roommate came out and said, well, one of y'all gonna fix my door. And I automatically turned around like, you're not gonna disrespect me like that. So I go to talk to him about it like, we're not no. And he's still constantly like arguing, and he pushes me. I let the first one slide.
Just a second, who pushed you?
His roommate.
His roommate?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with his car?
I'm getting to that.
Well, let us get there.
So he pushes me a second, and the third time he pushed me, I punched him back. And they kind of grabbed me. So we're still trying to call him to talk to him. We go down and stand by his car. He don't ever come out. Yolanda, the one that keyed his car, that told him numerous times that she keyed his car, she started keying his car. I took the fire extinguisher and I sprayed it down. The same night I sprayed it, it was raining outside. So I fell. I didn't do any damage. And the same night it happened, we talked to him. He was making it seem like everything was fine. We gave him $8 so he can go get his car washed. At then, we thought everything was fine. Everything was done and over with. Now, all of a sudden, we come back for second semester. Now I'm going to court. Why am I going to court when he know I did not key his car? And I have told him I did not key his car. If I do something, I'm the type of person, if I do something messed up, I'm going to tell you, yeah, I did it.
May I see the damage to your car, please? Okay. Step up. Your name?
Stephanie Gates.
All right, Miss Gates, what did you do to Mr. White's car?
I didn't do anything to his car.
You didn't do anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so it was just a couple of people in this little mob
Yes,
that damaged his car?
It was 3, actually.
Okay, good. And they were friends of yours because that's what he was doing. He was telling bad things about you and your 2 friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Can I see the estimate, please?
Come on now, you had like 5 papers when I seen you.
All right. Now, Miss Griffin, you appear to be an intelligent young lady.
Yes, ma'am.
Got to stick with your English classes, but I think that you probably have potential. But I'm going to give you an exercise in criminal jurisprudence.
She didn't tell you to sit down. Oh, I'm sorry.
See how smart she is? I'm going to give you an example. Many years ago, when I was a judge in the family court, there was a young woman who got onto the subway, and she was wearing big hoop earrings like your friend is wearing. And a group of 4 girls got on the subway, and they went up to this girl who was on her way to school. She went to Fashion Institute of Technology. And they said, give us your earrings. And she said, no, I'm not giving you the earrings. One of the girls grabbed her arm. Another one of the girls grabbed her hair and pulled her hair over. The third girl stabbed her in the back and stole her earrings and killed her.
Well, I don't think that's something like
Listen, I'm trying to make you understand what this verdict is about. The girl who stabbed her was tried as an adult in the Supreme Court. And the 2 other girls, the one who grabbed her by the arm, the one who pulled her hair, they said, we didn't kill her. We didn't even have a knife. We were just messing around with her a little bit. We never thought our friend was going to stab her. We're not guilty. We shouldn't be held responsible. You know what I said to them after I convicted them of murder? I said, But for the fact, you see, this girl who had the knife, she couldn't have killed her if it wasn't for the two of you. First of all, you're acting as a pack. And when you act as a pack, the pack gets certain energy. And second, if you hadn't immobilized her, and if it was just one-on-one, in all probability, that young girl would be alive. It's because of the three of you acting together. You gave her the ability to stab her in the back. You're all equally as guilty. If it wasn't for the fact that you and all of your friends in a pack were out hunting for him, who hasn't said a word? Nice tie, by the way. If it wasn't for this group looking for him, pulling the fire extinguisher off a wall, going out and waiting for him near his car, spraying it with the entire content of the fire extinguisher, somebody else said, now you sprayed it, now I'm going to key the car. Never would have happened. So I'm going to tell you what your responsibility is. You're responsible, you, jointly and singularly are responsible for $1,070. Now, if you choose, Miss Griffin, to sue the other two girls and say, listen, I now have a judgment against me for $1,070, but you two participated as much as I did, so each one of us should share that responsibility, you go ahead and find him and sue him. He chose you to sue. That's fine. He doesn't have to be fair. He's the victim. He's the victim. He's the one whose car got vandalized, so he's the victim. And if he's a jerk, and if he's saying stupid things and being disrespectful, one day he'll get his. Now, I don't know whether you said anything bad about her. You have a mother?
Yes, I do.
She alive?
Yes, she is.
Would you like if somebody called her the name that she alleges you called her?
I would not.
So you have to be respectful of other people's feelings, sir.
Understood.
That's what you're supposed to go to college to learn if you didn't learn it growing up in your house. So you're supposed to at least learn how to be a responsible adult when you're in college. That's what somebody is paying all that money for. In the meantime, Miss Griffin, I'm entering a judgment for $1,070, and if you want to find your two friends and sue them for their share, you go right ahead and do it. Thank you. That's all.
Excuse, you may step out.
I ain't key that man car, and you know Yolanda went up to you about so many times and told you that she keyed your car.
He say, she say. It's really, that's what it is.
You can sit over there and act like you Mr. Innocent and all that. You just want to be on TV.
A friend of hers told her that I said something that is very middle schoolish, that is very childish, and I'm above that.
It's not even about just keying the car. It's also about the the fire extinguisher on the car.
We talked to him the same exact night, and the boy made it seem like everything was fine.
It really don't matter to me. I just know what was done. I know what was not done.
He calling somebody. You need to look at other people besides me. I'm too thug to be. I
don't have no problem with it. At least nothing to be said about me and nothing said to me. I'm fine.
Can I go now? Because I'm getting upset.
23-year-old warehouse worker Monique Goodwin is suing her former landlord, apartment manager Linda Kyle, for medical bills, a security deposit, and pain and suffering. Monique says, due to Linda's negligence, she almost died.
Yeah, this is case number 489 on the calendar in the matter of Goodman versus Kyle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Goodwin, Miss Kyle was the resident manager in the apartment complex where you used to live.
Correct.
And you're suing her for thousands of dollars because you say she ignored a medical condition that you had, placing your life at risk, both yours and your daughter's.
Correct.
And you want your pain and suffering that she caused you, some medical bills. In addition, you want a security deposit of $1,000 that she hadn't returned to you.
Correct.
And Miss Kyle says she owes you absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, you lived there the last month without paying rent, and that's what your security deposit went for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now let's get to the medical condition first, because I find that quite interesting. I gather there is a gate.
Correct.
In your former complex where you lived, and that when you moved in, you were told that in order to get in and out of the gate, you needed a clicker, like a remote, and it was $25.
Yeah, but at the time, I did not own a...
Don't get ahead of me, please. Okay. I'll let you fill in the blanks. Okay. I'm sort of setting this out so that Bird doesn't get bored.
Okay.
So you opted not to get a clicker because you didn't have a car.
No, I had a remote control, but it wasn't one that I purchased from her. At the time, I did not own a car, so there was no reason for me to have a remote control to the gate. But the only reason why I got
Oh, listen to me. You didn't buy a remote control from her for $25.
Correct.
When did you move in?
I moved in April.
April of what year?
2004.
All right. And you lived there with your daughter?
My daughter and my son.
Then in October of 2004, your daughter had a seizure.
Correct.
And paramedics came and fire department and everybody else, and they can get in to the complex, but because you didn't have a clicker, they couldn't get out. At least the ambulance couldn't get out. Is that right?
Correct.
So you were angry because your daughter was stuck in the ambulance or whatever, and you went to her the next day, I assume, and
Yes,
said what? And said what?
I was very upset. I approached Miss Linda Kyle and informed her that around 4 o'clock that morning, the paramedics came and picked up my daughter because she had a seizure, and the fire truck came and opened up the gate. After the fire truck left, then the paramedics were there. When the paramedics got ready to leave out of the gate, there was no way for them to, when they went around the apartments,
Listen to me,
only
Ms.
one.
Goodwin, we're not creating a novel here. This is a novella, small. The ambulance couldn't get out.
No, they couldn't.
So you went and complained the next day?
Yes, I did.
And what did Miss Kyle say to you?
She did nothing.
Your daughter suffers from seizures?
That was the first seizure that I've ever had my daughter have.
Well, after you had that first experience, you know what I would have done?
No.
I would have bought a clicker.
Okay.
You chose not to do that. And then a month later, you had an asthma attack.
Correct.
And you still didn't have a clicker.
Exactly, but that has nothing to do with the paramedics. The paramedics should be able to get out of that gate at all times. The only one that has a code is the fire truck. Once the fire truck leaves, there's nothing that the paramedics can do. The night that I had that asthma attack, there was no way for them. They saved my life. I was hospitalized for 3 days because of that. And the first time, she did nothing.
What I don't understand is why you didn't buy a clicker.
Why I didn't? Because I didn't have a car. There was no need for me. After someone stole it inside the apartment.
Listen to me. There was a need because a month before your daughter had a serious incident, according to you. And had you had a clicker at that point, you would have gone out in the ambulance with your daughter, gone like this, and the gate would have gone up.
Well, at the time, when a 2-year-old is sitting there having a seizure, that remote control does not mean anything to me. That is my 2-year-old daughter. That's the only daughter that I have. That remote control.
I want to tell you something. You're not making sense to me. You're not making sense to
me.
The
remote control, okay, the remote control is a big thing to me, okay? It is. But when it comes to the fire truck and the paramedics, that has nothing to do with me having a remote control to the gate. That has nothing to do with it at all, period. I could have lost my life in that paramedics. That's why I'm so upset.
Listen to me, madam. What I don't understand is your daughter had a seizure in October. The paramedics had a problem getting out of your gate. Now you know that your daughter is subject to seizures. I would have said to myself, I have a 2-year-old child. I'm not going to be put in a situation where this can ever happen to me again. Here's $25. Give me a clicker. I'm going to keep it in my house in case I ever have that kind of problem again. That's the way you protect your child. Why would you blame that on somebody else?
Well, it's a lot when it comes to Miss Linda.
We're not talking about Miss Linda. I'm talking about you being a responsible parent.
Yes.
You now have a child that you know is subject to seizures, who may in the future have that kind of an emergency. And just as you would go and get the medicine for your child that the doctor gave you, you would want to ensure that if an ambulance had to be called again, you would be able to get the ambulance in and out. I mean, if you disapprove of the way this apartment complex is run, you have a choice. You can move.
Correct.
That's your choice. But to stay there after your 2-year-old has had a seizure without the ability to get her out in case of an emergency is very, very irresponsible.
Well, I thought she was going to fix the problem after I approached her with it.
What made you think that?
Because she's the manager of the apartments. And
no, what did she say to you that led you to believe that she was going to fix it?
She told me they had a code to the gate. They don't have a code to that gate because we sat out there for 30 minutes. When I had my asthma attack, they went knocking on people's doors at 4 o'clock in the morning to get me
Just
out.
a second. Let me ask you a question. They were knocking on people's doors, the paramedics?
Correct.
What did they want when they were knocking on people's doors?
They wanted to get out of the gate.
They wanted a
remote control to get out of the gate.
Judge Judy continues in a moment when says she nearly died from an asthma attack because paramedics couldn't open the security gate to her apartment. Manager Linda Kyle says Monique never purchased a remote control.
Now, after your incident in November, at some point you were served with an eviction notice. You want to tell me why you served her with an eviction notice?
The eviction notice that Ms. Goodwin was served with had nothing to do with the gate. It was due to a nuisance matter where her and her sister was fighting all outside.
You have a complaint?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? Who witnessed this?
Actually, it was 3 or 4 apartments in the complex that called and reported that there was a big scene.
Did you have surround sound in your apartment?
No, I do not own surround sound.
Your Honor, she told me she owned surround sound.
When did she tell you that?
When I asked her to turn her music down.
What did she say?
She said that she didn't feel that she should have to get rid of her surround sound, that she had a right as long as she paid her rent and her apartment to play her music whenever she felt like it.
Which is a lie.
Okay, so you were served with this 3-day notice to quit on December the 1st.
No, I wasn't.
When were you served?
I was given this notice to quit on December the 3rd. I tried to give her my rent on the 1st of December. She looked at me with a big smile on her face while me and my mom was in her office and told me that she was not going to accept my rent.
Okay. So she said, I'm not going to accept your rent on December 1st. You were given a notice to vacate the apartment. When did you, in fact, leave the apartment?
We went to court on January the 5th. I didn't leave until January the 22nd.
What was your rent?
My rent was $625.
Did you pay rent for December?
I tried. I have.
Don't tell me you tried.
No, I...
Did you pay rent for December? Did you live there in December?
Yes, I did.
Did you pay rent in January?
No, I did not, because she
Did you live there in January?
Yes, I did. I tried to give her my rent. She did not want it.
No, she wanted you out. The only issue is whether, when you moved out, you owed any money. You lived there for 2 months. You didn't pay rent for 2 months. I'm not here to determine whether or not the underlying case of the eviction was right or wrong. That's been resolved by the housing court. I'm here because you want your security deposit back, and what I'm saying to you is you expected to live there for December and January and not have, I'm speaking, and not pay rent?
I'm gonna get mad.
Are you living someplace now that you like?
Yes, me and my kids are very happy.
Good, that's what I think should happen. I think that you and your children should find a place to live where you're very happy. Does it have a gate?
Yes, it does. And as a matter of fact, the people can get in and out of the gate.
Perfect. Then you're in a place where you're happy.
But the problem...
Listen to me. You're in a place where you're happy. All right. Now, you were given an opportunity to get a remote control for the gate. You chose not to get one. Even after your daughter had a seizure, you chose not to get one.
What does that have to do with the paramedics? I don't understand that.
Miss Goodwin, listen, there are no free rides.
Yeah, but this is the receipt that I tried to give her my rent money. But she would not take it from me.
You just paid it with your security deposit, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Me and my daughter could have lost our lives while we were in that paramedics.
Well, I think Judge Judy got a chance to see through Miss Monique.
This lady is a very good liar, and she lies all the time.
She's young. This is her first apartment.
She's just and I hate her, and I'm going to keep hating her.
She's a little hard-headed. You can't make her understand.
She's just like, ugh.
Pray for patience.
Underwood is suing her ex-boyfriend, construction worker Sean Burge, for a loan to have his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy claims Sean lied to her about being married.
Now this is case number 492 on the calendar in the matter of Underwood versus Burge. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
You're the wife?
Yes, ma'am.
You're the girlfriend.
The ex-girlfriend.
You're the bargain. Don't see it. So something special that's just between you and you. Miss Underwood, according to your complaint, Mr. Burge and you were involved in a relationship. You didn't know that he was still married at the time.
Correct.
And you loaned him money. Loaned
Correct.
him money to something called lifting his truck. I don't know what that means. You'll explain it to me in 10 seconds or less. Then you bailed out his car when it got impounded. What else?
2 tickets.
2 tickets. And you said you made loans to him because you actually thought that you were going to be building a life together based upon his promises and his statement that you were going to go to live in Arizona together and whatever. When you tried to find out when he was going to pay you, you went to his house and lo and behold, his wife answered the door.
Correct.
Mr. Burge says everything that you gave him that he acknowledges he took were given as gifts.
Yes, Your Honor.
And he never fooled you. You knew that he was married and that he had children because he has tattoos of them all over him.
Tattoos does not mean that he's
But they're still together.
married, or the fact that...
And he says he doesn't owe you a quarter. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long are you married, Mr. Burge?
Over 6 years.
You have children?
Yes, 4.
When did you leave your wife?
Around April, May.
And when did you meet Miss Underwood?
Right at the end of May.
Where?
Through an ad in the paper.
What kind of an ad?
It was like a penny saver ad.
What did it say? Shh, quiet!
It said, this is who I am. And so I responded to it. She sounded interesting.
Why, after 6 years of marriage and 4 children, you separated? In a couple of weeks, you felt the necessity to find somebody else?
It's just I like having someone around. I wasn't out to build a relationship. I was out to find a friend. And, things were going good with us.
And when, for the first time, did she give you money?
It would be September 9th, if I'm not mistaken.
Right? Yeah.
September 9th.
But I didn't give him anything.
Shh. Tell me what she gave you money for.
She did a lift on my truck.
Well, I don't know what that means. A lift for your truck means it's raised off the ground?
It raises it off the ground with bigger tires.
Why did you need that?
It was just something I wanted.
You have 4 children, so don't you think you should want to send them more money than raise your truck off the ground?
My children are well taken care of.
How much money did you earn?
Say again?
How much money did you earn?
I was making $15 an hour.
Oh, my God. A fortune. So what you're telling me is on $15 an hour, you can support your 4 children and you.
My wife works also.
How old are your children?
Twin 9-year-olds, a 5-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old boy.
And who watches them when you're both working?
Daycare.
Who pays for the daycare?
We do.
Really? Your wife must be a very successful CEO of a major company.
No, she just works very hard for what she gets.
Harder than you.
We work equally.
Really? What kind of work do you do, Miss Burge?
I work for the phone company.
What's your annual salary?
54.
So you're the primary breadwinner in your family?
I make more an hour, yes.
Stand up. How many months were you separated from your husband?
Roughly about 6.
How much money did he send you for support during those 6 months?
We still live together, but we just stayed.
Is what you're telling me, Miss Burge, that you still lived under the same roof while you were separated?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that, Miss Underwood?
No, I did not.
You think your husband told that to her?
I don't know.
Trust me. Did he tell you about Miss Underwood?
No, we didn't share personal stuff about each other.
Only 4 children. Did you ask him where he got the money to have his truck lifted?
No, ma'am.
See. Where did Mr. Burge tell you that he was living?
He said exactly where he was living.
Had you ever been there to visit him?
No, because he was always at my house.
How often was he at your house?
A couple times during the week, not for very long, but he came over a couple times during the week on Sundays, because Sunday was his only day off.
But you never went to his house until you were looking for him for the money?
Until New Year's Eve, correct.
Well, you weren't looking for him for the money New Year's Eve, you were just looking to find him?
I actually was just looking to find him because he told me that we would be together, and then his friends called and said that he was drunk and passed out, so they were taking him to their house. So I decided that enough was enough, and I wanted to go find out what was going on, and lo and behold, the wife and 4 kids answered the door.
Mr. Burge, did you tell Miss Underwood that you were still living at home with your wife?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
Why not?
I didn't see it as relevant at the time. We were just friends.
Well, you were friends, you were intimate.
Yeah,
You had taken money from her.
yeah,
You knew that she had feelings for you.
yes.
Did you feel as if you were being honest with her?
Not completely, no.
Right. I think you got the better end of the deal.
I think so too.
Unfortunately, she didn't find out about his character until they had 4 children together.
That's her problem.
That's her problem. And not only that,
she can have him. I don't want him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Underwood says ex-boyfriend Sean Burge owes for having his truck lifted and for impound fees. Tammy says Sean is living a double life.
tell me about having the truck lifted.
He said that the weight of all the tools and stuff he used for work weighed the truck down too much, so if we did that, then it wouldn't be as much of a strain on the truck. And at that point, I'm agreeing that, you know, we're going to try and start a life. We had already talked about starting a life. And I told him, okay, I said, this is the deal. I have a credit card that just got paid off. We could do this, but you have to make the payments on it.
And he said?
He said, okay. He said that would not be a problem. He would be able to make the payments. So we...
Now let me hear your version of the truck, sir.
Your Honor, weeks before that, we were talking. My birthday was coming up in October, and she asked me, you know, what do you want for your birthday? Jokingly, I said, I'd like to get my truck lifted. I never made arrangements to pay anything back, because if I could afford to pay her back on it, I would have paid for it myself.
What was the next thing you paid off for him?
His truck got towed.
When did your truck get towed?
I don't remember the exact date.
And what did you do when you found out it was towed?
I called to her and asked her if she could get it out.
Why don't you call your wife?
I didn't choose to.
You can either have a happy life or an unhappy life. The choice is yours. Do you understand?
I understand.
Just because you make an initial mistake doesn't mean that you have to go through your whole life suffering for it. How much did it cost to have the truck lifted?
$32.50.
How much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
$318.
And now we have the tickets. What about the tickets? Did he ask you to pay those tickets?
Yes, he called me at work and said, can we afford for you to pay the tickets? And I said, there's no we. I can do it if you can make the payments. I said, you have to agree to make the payments.
How much were the tickets?
One was $606 and one was $446.
What do you want to say?
I wanted to mention that I just want to reflect back on something that she had said when she said that he used to come over quite frequently. He works Monday through Saturday, and he was only gone on a Sunday a few times that I can recall.
Well, what do you think that this phantom relationship that he had with Miss Underwood was?
I really don't know. I wasn't involved in it, but
right. You do know, however, that he solicited her friendship while the two of you were married and living under the same roof. Mm-hmm. That he asked her for help, according to him, right?
Right.
Or something that someone would say to a new friend. We're building something together. I need some help right now. Mm-hmm. Separated from my wife, whatever. We're divorced. I don't know. Did he say you separated or divorced?
No, said he was divorced for about 1.5 years.
Got it?
Mm-hmm.
Got it?
I understand that.
Do you believe her that that's what he said? I want you to believe her, Miss Burge.
Okay.
That's what he said.
May I mention another thing?
Sure.
The night that she showed up on our doorstep, she did mention to me that she had told him that he needs to put an effort toward the relationship or she was going to sue him for the money.
And your point would be?
You know, it was okay for her to do this for him until she found out that we were still living together and that he and I ended up going, you know, started working on a relationship and he left her.
Because you got the prize. Is that right? Because you got the prize? And she didn't. And she didn't. I want to tell you, my darling, you got the booby prize. He's an unethical, amoral man who used her when it suited him. And he didn't even have the decency to say to her, I'm going back to my wife. I know you spent almost $5,000 on me. I'm going to pay you back, little by little. whatever it takes, because I don't want you to feel as if you've been abused by me. Do you understand? That would have been a decent human being. Instead, he says, see ya. You feel like a fool? You were a fool? I'm going back to my wife with my new lifted truck. And if that's the kind of character you want your children to grow up around, stick with them. You will reap what you sow. The next fool will be you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,620. Thank you. That's all.
Why did you excuse? You messed up out.
We started building a life together. He said he loved me, and I never knew about the wife until New Year's Eve.
I didn't lie to her about anything. I might not have told her things, but I didn't lie to her.
We had all kinds of plans. It wasn't just like a month, okay, boom, done, you know.
It just didn't work between me and her.
Christmas, you know, he promised my son he would be there, and all of a sudden didn't show.
Mistress is a mistress, you know. You end up coming out with everything or you come out with nothing.
It really hurt because I was in love with him, so, but she can have him.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Young versus Elahi, step forward, please.
19-year-old bank teller Chris Young is suing limo company owner Mike Elahi for ruining his prom. Chris says the limo was too small and over an hour late.
Mr. Elahi, you own a limousine company?
Yes, ma'am.
How many cars do you have?
4.
How long have you had the company?
This company is about 2 years.
What kind of cars do you have?
I have a sedan, SUV, and Excursion and Hummer.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
you, according to your complaint, hired the defendant for a prom.
Correct.
And what kind of car did you rent?
I requested, he told me he had a 18-passenger Hummer limo.
Is that what you told him you wanted?
Right, he said that's all he had left.
Did you have a contract with him?
I have the credit card statement.
Let me see it, please. What night was your prom?
It was the night of May 15th.
And when had you reserved this?
I called her around the 12th, I believe it was.
Would you have been just as happy with the SUV or another car?
The whole reason we ordered the Hummer is because we had a couple extra people join our group.
What time was he supposed to arrive?
He's supposed to arrive at 6:30.
What time did the car arrive?
Around 8:15.
What kind of car arrived?
It was a 12-person excursion.
Did you call the defendant between 6:30 and 8:15?
I called the defendant at 6:30 to ask where the limo was.
And where was the limo, sir?
It was at the location.
No, he called you at 6:30, sir, asking you where the car was.
At 6:30, I don't recall that. I don't recall that.
Well, you don't
yeah.
recall that?
No.
Well, he does. So then you must be mistaken.
I talked to 6:45. I talked to the driver, and he was with the customer.
With what customer?
With the passengers.
These passengers?
Absolutely.
No. Sir. No. Otherwise, he wouldn't be here today. What's the name of your company?
A1 Limousine.
A1 didn't do their job that night, sir. They didn't get to his house until, according to him,
Well,
at least an hour and a half late.
Well, it was an hour and a half. It wasn't late at all, ma'am. It wasn't late at all.
You don't know that at all, sir.
Yes, I talked to the driver myself.
Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Alawi.
Sure.
You can't tell me what the driver said to you. That's hearsay. Why didn't you bring the driver here?
What driver is no longer with the company.
Why not?
With the company. Well, this job is about a year ago. I tried to find a driver. Well,
It's not a year
unfortunately, I
ago.
wasn't successful.
All right, well, then you can't tell me anything, sir. I have to rely on what the plaintiff tells me. So the car was an hour and 45 minutes late.
All right, I have proof of the limo being late.
Can I see it, please? You still have this limousine company?
Yes, I do.
I would have suggested, Mr. Alawi, that what you do is to credit Mr. Young for that evening, or at least for a substantial part of it, because your company's not going to come out looking really good tonight.
Well, according to my note, I checked with
Here's
the
a letter
driver
from the Agora High School, from the principal, indicating that they received a distress telephone call from the parents of Chris Young, indicating that the limo, which had been ordered, had not arrived, and the students would miss the 9 o'clock deadline for admission. After conferring with me, the students were granted a half-hour extension of the deadline until 9:30.
Well, ma'am, they used the service. They used the service, and they were in the car before 7 o'clock. There was no way they were...
They were not! They were not in the car. Because, listen to me, the car didn't get there
Well, they could have canceled the whole thing. Why did they use the service then? If the driver was late hour and 45 minutes, why did they use the service?
Where is A1 Limousine located?
West Los Angeles.
I wouldn't use them. Ever. When you have a company, and we're not getting to the condition of the limousine when it arrived, because I read that. When you have a company that accepts the responsibility of providing limousine service for high school kids for their prom, and you don't do the right thing, you have to be able to accept responsibility.
Absolutely, that's part of our job, you know, to be there on time.
And you did not. And if you did not, you're supposed to be able to say, we did not, and it's the cost of doing business, I'm going to refund your money.
Well, that's not true, ma'am. The driver was there on time, and the car was
I'm telling you, the driver was not there on time. What part of that don't you understand?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but
Are you thick? You have pictures of what the car looked like inside? Can I see it, please? Can I see it, please?
The pictures don't show any much of
Mr.
the mess inside. But I have a witness that saw the inside of the limo.
Who was that?
Paula.
Step up, please. Tell me your name.
Paula Smith-Shamey. I'm the mother of his date. I was there through the whole waiting for the driver.
You were the mother of his date?
Yes.
That would be you. You look very pretty, by the way.
Thank you.
What time did the car arrive?
It was about an hour and a half after it was supposed to be there. And even when the limo did finally arrive, the driver would not take them. He said that he was being told that he could not drive them, or if he drove them, he wouldn't get paid. On his own, he suggested, well, I can take you down there because it's on my way back, but I can't bring you back.
Did he bring them back?
Well, after negotiating, yes, he did take them, but there wasn't enough room. The kids sat on the floor. 2 of the kids were transported by their parents, but it was still very crowded in there. One of the kids was on the floor.
Could you describe to me what the limousine looked like?
It looked like a party vehicle. It was leopard print with mirrored ceilings. There was cans on the floor. There was dirt on the carpeting inside. And it was
Was this one of your regular cars, Mr. Alawi? That's the answer, yes or no. Was this one of your regular cars?
No, ma'am.
You subcontracted for this car?
That's correct.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount requested, which was $1,356.25. Mr. Alawi, I'm going to tell you something, sir. You make a big mistake as a businessman. As a businessman, you certainly don't air your dirty laundry in front of 10 million people. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was dirty. There were soda cans all over it.
During that time, the prom, everybody looking for that type of car.
We didn't get anything to drink because the cups were already used.
Maybe you got dirty after they used the service.
We were still have a good time. We didn't let it bother us.
Just wasn't what I expected for my senior prom.
Welder Rodney Davis is suing his former friend, meat cutter Rick Spruill, for the balance on a truck and for a false arrest. Rick says Rodney threatened to break his kneecaps.
Yeah, this is case number 542 on the calendar in the matter of Davis versus Spruill. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Davis, the defendant is your former wife's cousin.
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor.
And you made the mistake of selling him a used truck. We don't do that with family. It's really pretty stupid because it's always trouble. You claim that you sold him the truck, I believe, for $3,500. He paid you $2,500. He was supposed to pay you the rest, and he didn't.
No, he did not.
So when you started to call him and wanted your money, he filed false charges against you, according to you, of telephone harassment, and you were arrested and had expenses. So you are suing him for 2 things. First, the balance owed on the truck, plus interest, because you agreed, according to you, to $200 in interest on the additional $1,000 that he owed, and the money that you spent and your aggravation as a result of these false harassment charges. Now, Mr. Spruill says that you were angry with him after you sold him your truck because he introduced your now ex-wife to her current present husband. And you got very angry with him. And then you told him you wanted more money for the truck. And you started to call him on the phone. And he filed these charges against you because they were true.
Correct.
When did you sell him the truck?
March of 2004, right around this time last year.
You have a bill of sale?
No, I do not, Your Honor.
Why not?
Considering the fact that it was based on family word, we took it upon that and did the lousy mistake of not having one wrote up.
All right. March of 2004, he took possession of the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
And did he have the title to the truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when for the first time did you call him and ask him for more money?
Approximately 1 month after I was having issues with my ex-wife.
Why don't you answer my question, Mr. Davis? When did you call him and tell him you wanted more money?
Approximately a month after I sold him the truck.
So in April. And what did you say to him when you called him in April?
I told him I needed the money. I did not appreciate what was going on between him and his litigations of owing me the money.
Well, according to you, when was he supposed to pay you the rest of the money?
Tax time this year when he received his refund.
So he had another year?
Yes, Your Honor.
So when you called him a month after he took possession of the truck, even according to you, that was not your contract?
No, it was not.
So you called him and you were angry?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what did you say to him when you called him?
This is on the 9th of July. I left him a message of how I thought of him through the whole allegation of everything.
Well, what did you say?
I told him I needed the money. I did not appreciate what he has done, trying to mediate between me and my ex-wife.
Mr. Davis is having some difficulty coming up with exactly what the message was. Mr. Spruill, you want to tell me what he said?
He said he would break my kneecap with a tire iron.
That's a lie. I told him I would meet him halfway.
Told him to meet him halfway for what?
From all the threats that I have received from him, Mr. Spruill himself.
What threats did you receive from him?
I received threats from him of signing over my parental rights to my son, to his wife's cousin, and to never see him again.
Well, what do you mean threats? I don't hear a threat. You want to tell me what the threat was?
I'm not seeing my son ever again. I'm never paying the amount owed against the pickup.
Who is this?
This is my mother.
You're making it up as you're going along, Mr. Davis?
No, ma'am, I am not.
Yeah, you are. Now, when you said to him, according to you, I'll meet you halfway, I don't know what that means.
I was upset during that day because I missed a court date with my ex-wife.
You missed a court date?
I was not notified properly. I moved away from my address. The court sent the papers to that address. I was not there, and I was not informed of the court date.
Did you have an attorney?
No, I did not.
What was the court date for, Mr. Davis?
Child support.
Did they enter a support order?
Yes, they did, Your Honor.
For how much?
$255 a month. The actual court order is $225 for my son. Rearages of $1,742.
Okay, so you have an order that you didn't pay?
Yes, I did.
Well, $225 a month is not an unusually high support order. Mr. Davis, why were you upset?
I had a previous relationship, and I'm paying an enormous amount of money for my daughter.
Well, what are you mad at your ex-wife for? She's not getting an enormous amount of money. She's getting $50 a week. What were you annoyed at them for? You were just generally annoyed.
Generally annoyed to the fact that what has happened, Mr. Spruill was trying to mediate between us as I try to reconcile and get back with my ex-wife.
She didn't want to get back with you?
No, she did not.
Got to be a reason.
There was a reason.
So after he told you he was going to break your kneecaps with a tire iron, you called the police?
Correct.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. Mr. Davis, you have 2 children?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, according to the police report, your former wife says that you were upset with the defendant because you hold him responsible for breaking up the marriage. However, in more fairness, your ex-wife did say that she didn't think that you would carry out those threats.
I would not. I admit I was...
Shh, just a second. Well, you admitted to the police, Mr. Davis, that you told the defendant that you'd break his other leg if he didn't pay you. And you also said that you knew that you shouldn't have threatened him and that you had no intention of carrying out the threat. So you admitted to the police that you threatened bodily harm to the defendant. So you cannot sue him for filing false charges against you. He doesn't have to interpret whether or not you meant it or not, or whether you had a bad day. You have to keep your temper.
Understood, Your Honor.
Good. So that part of your complaint is dismissed. Now let's get to the truck. I read your answer very carefully. Your answer says that you gave Mr. Davis another $1,000.
Yes.
When?
I sent him another $1,000 on 1/22 of 05.
Can I see the check, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you send him the check?
Because he threatened to bring my father-in-law into the lawsuit with this letter that he sent to my father-in-law.
I'd like to see it.
And I just wanted to keep the peace.
Why didn't you take his check, sir?
That was not agreed upon. $1,200 was agreed upon by this time.
No, sir. That wasn't your agreement, Mr. Davis. Your agreement, according to you, was that he would give you the other $1,000 plus $200 interest by tax time 2005. That's what you told me. He was paying you early. Isn't that what you told me? You want to say something? For what?
Because I'm the reason that he sent the check back, because I thought it was wrong. He should have been $1,200.
Why don't you just keep it zipped?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Rodney Davis says former friend Rick Spruill owes for the balance on a truck and for having him falsely arrested.
You're supposed to be a peacemaker, not a troublemaker. Peacemaker, not a troublemaker. Your son has a little bit of a temper and he's going through a very difficult time. He made 2 babies. He's got to support them. It's very hard to take care of 3 families when you're one person. He felt as if everything was piling on him, and he went through a very bad period in his life. And what you're not supposed to do is exacerbate it if you're his mother. And if you're the reason that he sent back this $1,000 check because you thought it should have been $1,200, you're not a very smart mother.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Here.
Right.
Well, I felt it was wrong that Rick got the truck for half of what it was worth. We went through a really hard year with all this telephone harassment. I know Rick and Rod's ex-wife called our house when he was staying there lots of times.
What does that have to do with sending back the check and being a troublemaker?
Okay, so if he gets the truck for half of what it's worth.
No. Your son made a deal. Your son made a contract. He's an adult. He's not 16 years old. He's a grown man who made 2 babies. Now, there's a piece of me that believes him that he made an agreement to sell this truck for $3,500, and maybe he made the agreement to, if he wasn't paid up in 6 months, he was going to charge him an extra $200 in interest. In any event, the whole matter could have been resolved because he gave him a check for $1,000, and he gave him the check for $1,000 before the amount was due. He gave him the check in January, and he wasn't supposed to pay him until April. That's what your son just told me. So, you're supposed to be a peacemaker, not a troublemaker. You're supposed to say, listen, take the check, put a period.
I should have.
Let's try to make peace. I have a grandchild that I want to be able to see. I have a baby that I don't want to lose. Instead of being a troublemaker. Now you get it? Good. Just do me a favor. Give him the check. He gets the check. I suggest, Mr. Davis, that you cash it.
Yes,
because
ma'am.
that's all you're getting.
Understood.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
The most frustrating part about it is he lied and he got away with it.
I think he's upset about the family, the loss of the family.
I just hope issues can be resolved.
Let's hope this is the end of it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kralik versus Killen, step forward, please.
Hairstylist Phil Kralik is suing his former friend, realtor Donnie Killen, for a loan to attend massage therapy school. Donnie claims Phil made the tuition payments behind his back.
Mr. Kralik, you and the defendant were friends, and according to your complaint, you made a loan to him for school tuition.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Callen acknowledges that you paid $2,000 for his tuition at massage therapy school, and according to him, it was a gift. He never made a contract with you for repayment. Is that right?
Correct.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding this loan, Mr. Kralik.
Your Honor, the defendant came to me in June of last year, in 2004, and had expressed the idea of going to massage therapy school. He said
What was he doing at the time?
He was a real estate agent, Your Honor. He said that he was checking into the school. He didn't have enough money to go pay for it himself.
Shh.
He asked me if he could borrow the money, and I felt like I wanted to help him. He was my friend. I was given help when I got into my career, and so I got the money together and wrote a check.
Who did you write the check to?
I wrote the check to the school, Your Honor, and I do have that for you.
I also have a copy, Your Honor.
Mr. Killen, don't speak until I look in your direction.
Yes, ma'am.
You're going to have an opportunity to testify. Right now it's his turn. We know about turns?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Did you give him this check?
No, Your Honor, I took it down to the school.
Was he with you when you took it to the school?
He was there that day, Your Honor, I believe.
Was he with you when you took the check to the school?
Not immediately, no.
What was the conversation that you had immediately preceding you taking this down to the school?
We had discussed that he needed to have some time to pay it back. I was not in any hurry.
Stop shaking your head. What you're doing is in the form of testifying, sir, and it's irritating to me. You don't want to irritate me before I hear your side of the case, do you?
No.
That would be a very dumb thing for you to do. And what you're doing is irritating me.
Yes, ma'am.
So stop it.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, we discussed that he would need a grace period. It's a clientele building business. I'm in a clientele building business.
What kind of business are you in?
I'm a hairstylist, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
I knew it would take him time to get established, and I wasn't worried about getting the money immediately. So we decided we would have installments that he would pay me a few months after he got out of school. He was my best friend. I wasn't trying to put him in a situation that would set him up for failure.
Did you complete the course?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently working in that field?
No, ma'am. The
Why not?
license laws in the state of Illinois have changed. You need an additional 400 hours
400 hours for what?
in order to become licensed with the state. You need
Of
another 400
practical
hours
work?
of class.
Of class?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when do you intend to do that?
Actually, at this point in time, I don't intend to. The discussion about...
I'm asking you specific questions.
Okay.
So you haven't gone back to work in this field?
Not in this field.
Go ahead.
You know, I made several attempts to collect this money from him with no success, and I decided I had no choice.
Now I'll hear you, sir.
There was never any talk of a loan, Your Honor. The matter was discussed around about May 11th when I was at an appointment at his salon. He did free haircuts and manicures for me because I was his best friend. We discussed approximately around then. I looked into actually the massage school itself. On May the 17th, I enrolled. I actually have a payment plan agreement with the school from when I enrolled.
Can I see it, please?
Yes, ma'am.
So you agreed to pay the school?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So you had every intention of paying for this career-enhancing service?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Go ahead.
When I started school on June the 7th was actually the first day of school. I had gone in and found that Mr. Kralik had made the $2,000 payment to the school, and we had a small discussion after that about him going in and doing it. He did it before I actually made it to class that day, and he said that this was just something he did for friends. He assisted friends in this manner.
He didn't say to you something like, you know, when you have a tuition plan at the school, you have to pay them a certain time. But I figure if I gave you this $2,000, we can have a more flexible repayment schedule, you know, when you get clients or when you get
No,
back
ma'am,
into
the school was
business.
very flexible with their payment plans, but I had $15,000 worth of closings coming up in the next couple of months, which I could have actually paid the school and had every
Fine.
intention.
That's very nice. Now, and you're no longer friends.
No.
And you had this $15,000 from your real estate coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel it would be appropriate, if you had all intentions of paying for the school, sir, to give him back the money that he invested?
He, on several occasions, had held it above my head in arguments.
He held it over your head in
Anytime.
arguments. But like what?
Anytime there was an argument, he'd always say, well, I paid for your massage school. And I had actually voiced to him, well, then on my next closing, I will give you the money back. That
Yes.
way, you'll just leave me alone and not
Right.
bother me anymore with it. And he had told me on those several occasions he would not cash those checks. I told him I knew who he borrowed the money from, and I would go write the check directly to him.
So are you telling me, Mr. Killen, that the plaintiff borrowed money, because he didn't have the $2,000 in cash, to give it to you for school tuition, because you didn't have the money at the time, but you were expecting $15,000 in within a couple of weeks? Is that what you're telling me?
Correct, ma'am.
You're some piece of work, Mr. Killen.
He has never requested payment. He's never asked for any
Well,
payment
what do you
on
think
this.
he's doing
There was
here?
never
You think
any
he's doing? You think
establishment
he's
of a
doing?
loan.
I'm speaking. You think he's here, sir, because he wants to ask me out on a date?
I think he's here
He's
because
here because he wants his $2,000.
I think he's here because this is another of his vindictive actions. He does this to everyone.
Well,
And I even have a witness to testify to his vindictive actions.
To you?
To his vindictive
To
actions
you?
towards me, yes.
Tell me your name.
My name's Chris.
Chris, you have a last name.
Eddie.
How do you know him?
I don't know Mr. Kralik. The only time I met him was when I was assisting Donnie from moving from his apartment into the condo that he had purchased.
And?
There was discussion while we were at the condo. Mr. Kralik made the comment that he wouldn't make Mr. Killen go through the property management to get his deposit back if they were still friends. We had to...
Just a second. If they were still friends, he wouldn't make Mr. Killen go to the property manager to get his deposit back.
Right.
Okay, that's the vindictive testimony that you wanted me to hear? I just want to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Killen, you're a big boy. Take care of your obligations. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $2,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
There was never a loan. He's just vindictive, and that's the reason we're here.
I'm very pleased with her verdict. I think justice won.
He was very violent. He threw a phone at me at one point in time.
I've never been violent. I've never thrown a phone.
Very argumentative.
A pillow, maybe, not a phone.
Waitress Michelle Downer is suing her former friend, 27-year-old project manager Jason Gallahue, for assaulting her and vandalizing her car. Jason is countersuing, claiming Michelle broke the front door to his house.
This is case number 69 on the calendar in the matter of Downer versus Gallahue. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Ms. Downer, according to the complaint that I've read, you allege that the defendant assaulted you and also broke your car with a rock or a brick.
Yes.
Mr. Gallahue said he was merely trying to help you from hurting yourself because you were drunk. He is counterclaiming because he says that while drunk, you broke the door to his home.
Correct.
Okay. Why don't you tell me first how you know him?
I met him through mutual friends and then started hanging out with his sister and started hanging out with him.
When did this incident happen?
On April 10th, around 3:30 or 4 a.m. in the morning.
Where had you been?
Working.
Where do you work?
Well, I previously worked at a bar on the Landing in St. Louis.
All right, let's go to April 9th. Okay. Where were you on April 9th at about 11 o'clock in the evening?
Working.
And where was Mr. Gallahue?
I don't know.
When did you first see him? At what time?
When I was getting off work around...
What time?
Around 2:30.
Where did you see him?
He was at a bar next door, and I walked out of mine and saw him in the parking lot.
And what did you do?
Said hi, just greeted each other. We were friends. Ended up giving him a ride home.
Why did you give him a ride home?
He's a friend.
How did he get to the bar?
How
did you get to the bar?
I was down there with a couple other friends that were going to give me a ride home. Till Michelle asked me if she wanted to give me a ride home. So I'll go home with you.
And
we left. And on the way, he tried some things and said no. And we got back to his house, and that's when all of the...
Well, he tried some things. What do you mean he tried some things, Ms.
He was trying to put the moves on me, I guess you would say.
Okay.
Sexually trying to do things.
Okay. And you said, not interested. So you got to his house.
Yes.
And
as I reversed and put my car in park, and it was in the middle of the street, and he took my keys out of the ignition and ran inside his house.
And
I followed him in, grabbed my purse out of my car, and went in. And that's when I asked him, hey, can I have my keys back? At first it was funny because we're friends, and he was just playing a joke. But then it was late in the morning, and I wanted to go home. And he wouldn't give me my keys back, and it went on for a while, and then I started getting upset because I wanted to go home. Then we started getting an argument. One thing happened, and he spit in my face. So I slapped him on the cheek, and that's when he pushed me into the door. And that's when I got the eye, when I got hit on my eye.
And then?
I went outside and took his phone with me and called my mom to see if she had a spare key, if there was a spare key in my car. She said yes. So I grabbed that key, went back inside, and got my purse.
You mean after he hurt your eye, you went back inside for your purse?
Yeah.
He's just assaulted you, according to you.
Well, yes. But I still wanted my personal belongings. I mean, I have various credit cards in there that I really thought, it would be responsible to go back in and get my purse so that he couldn't take them.
Were you hurt when you hit the door with your eye?
Yes. I was
Not
hurt.
yet. I said how badly. That is
how badly?
A quantitative thing. You have to say I was hurt very badly. I wasn't hurt a lot. Not yet.
I mean, it hurt. Not badly, but it definitely hurt.
Were you afraid of him?
Yes.
Then why did you go back for your pocketbook?
I don't know. I wanted it.
So you went back for your pocketbook?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what happened?
Then I went and got in my car and drove up to the gas station up the street to call her. That's when he came running around the corner with a rock in his hand and he screamed and he threw it at my windshield, and I asked the gas station attendant if he saw it. He said yes. And
Don't tell me what the gas station
Okay, I'm
attendant
sorry.
said to you. So, did the windshield break?
Yes, it shattered, and I have pictures of it.
Can I see the police report that you filed?
I didn't file a police report.
Why is that?
I was hysterical. I wanted to get out of there. I was scared of him.
You don't file a police report that day, Miss Downey. You file a police report the next day. He assaulted you. Not only did he assault you, but he vandalized your car. You covered by insurance?
I did not file it with my insurance company. I paid out of pocket.
Why?
I didn't want to file it to my insurance company.
You didn't want to put in a claim to the insurance company. You didn't want to notify the police that, according to you, he assaulted you?
Yes, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't know. You're supposed to. I mean, you don't want to send him to jail or anything. I just would rather him pay for my windshield and pay for the work that he
Well, may
missed.
I have the bill that you had for your eye?
It wasn't damaged to the point where I had to go to the doctor. It was just.
Well, weren't you concerned you would injured near your eye? Could have caused all kinds of difficulty.
No.
So you didn't go to a doctor with regard to the eye?
No.
And you didn't call the police with regard to the assault or the vandalizing your car?
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess you didn't figure this was too big a deal. Now, let's go to you, Mr. Galley. I read your answer, and you have a whole different perspective on what happened on the night of April 10th.
Yeah, a lot of what she says is true. There's a few parts she missed out.
Okay,
we didn't
so that I don't have to be bothered with things that you agree on, why don't you just tell me the things that you don't agree with?
We did not meet in the parking lot. We met at the bar next door where my witness works. We were on the DJ booth messing around,
What does that mean, messing around?
kissing, fondling, touching.
You mean...
Not all three of us, or me and him, her and I.
Okay. All right. Had she been working that night?
Yes, she has, which is also a club that he used to work at. The Shots Girls sell shots and drink shots.
Okay. So what you're saying is when she got off of work, she came next door.
Yes.
Did you forget that?
Pardon me?
Did you forget to tell me that?
No.
Well, is it true that you went next door?
Yes.
Why didn't you tell me that?
I didn't think it was pertinent.
Well, it's pertinent to tell me whether you met him in a parking lot or whether you met him in a bar and you were drinking in the bar with him before you gave him a ride home.
I didn't drink in the bar with him.
Did you drink at all that evening?
Yes, I did.
Where?
At the place that I worked at.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Michelle Downer says her former friend Jason Gallahue assaulted her and vandalized her car. Michelle says Jason was angry because she turned down his advances.
Next.
From there, we get in the car, go home. If she was leaving and just dropping me off...
Don't say if she was leaving, just dropping me off. Just tell me what you don't agree with, sir.
The plan was for her to come inside the house. I knew
Okay,
she
how do
was
you know
drunk.
that that was the plan, sir?
Because that's what we talked about. Actually, on the way home when we were messing around, she said, wait till we get to your house. That's how I know.
That would be a clue.
That is a clue. Right. That was a good clue. I mean, that's pretty much what we disagree on. We get inside, we're arguing, she is correct. I took her keys because I know she has one DWI. Got in an accident and totaled the car already. I don't want her to get in another
Had you
accident.
been drinking that night, Mr. Gallahue?
Yes.
So the both of you had been drinking.
Yes.
And she was driving.
Yes.
And you were driving in her car.
Yes.
That was foolish, right?
Correct. Tend to do foolish things.
Well, only if you're young and drunk.
Correct.
So what you're telling me is that the two of you were both under the influence of alcohol that evening and did some very stupid things.
Yes.
And did you spit at her?
Yes, I did. After I was slapped.
Okay, so you say she slapped you first.
She
So
did
you
slap me.
Why did she slap you?
Because I had her keys and I wouldn't give her her keys and let her drive home.
And I assume the plan was to come into your home and to bring to fruition the evening's earlier activities. in your
Temptation,
house.
possibly?
Yes?
Possibly.
Right? Now, was that activity accomplished?
No.
Is that perchance why you had her keys?
No. It is not why I had her
Oh.
keys.
So you had your keys because you were being a good Samaritan. No, I'm just asking you. Just answer my
Yeah, I
question.
guess you could
yes.
say that. Yeah.
All right. So.
But I did lose the keys.
All right,
after
you
I
lost
took.
the keys. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she slapped you. You spit in her face. You pushed her.
Yes.
And did she hit her face when you pushed her?
I don't believe so.
Oh, you don't know. But
there is one other part that she did leave out. Whenever she was leaving and slammed the door, she did break my basement door window.
Okay. Now tell me about the rock that you gently threw, according to you. The rock that I have to quote this because I found it fascinating. You ready for this? You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. She ran out of my house and slammed the door, breaking the window. I was extremely upset, so I grabbed a rock and tossed it gently at her car. Now, so I would like you, please, sir, to just step back for a moment. Just take 2 steps back and show me how you gently throw a rock at her car.
It might have been, I was drunk, I didn't know. I had drinks, it might have been overhanded.
And you broke the windshield on her car?
Yeah, that's where it landed.
Okay. How much did the windshield cost?
$265.69.
And how much did the window on the door cost?
I put it in myself.
So how much did it cost?
$42 for the actual window itself.
And your labor?
Of course.
It's free, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. What do you do for a living, sir?
Actually, I'm a project manager.
For what?
Dance club.
Well, that's a nice title anyway.
Sure.
I like project manager anyway. Okay. When she broke the window in your house, did you call the police?
No.
Are you angry with her?
No.
Are you angry? Shh. Are you angry with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Get over it. Get over it. Sounds to me like you both had a little too much to drink and got pretty much what you deserved. Your case is dismissed, and so is your counterclaim. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I was attacked at the club, I was trying to fulfill her sexual needs, go back to the house. I don't know, she was obviously too drunk for that.
He's a liar.
I was there at the club that they work in. I was actually the DJ for it. You know, they were falling out of the DJ booth, stumbling drunk.
He spit in my face. That's disrespect in my book, and you don't spit in people's faces.
She was drunk. I wanted to save a friend, trying to be a good Samaritan.
He lied about advances. That was pretty much it. I still don't think I broke his door, though, but it got dismissed.
Shannon's company manager, Daniel Cruz, is suing his ex-fiancée, Shannon Kelly, for unpaid loans and for damaging his car in a drunken rage.
Yeah, this is case number 88 on the calendar in the matter of Cruz versus Kelly. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Cruz, Miss Kelly was your former fiancée.
That is correct, Your Honor.
And according to your complaint, you believe that she owes you some money for some loans that were made a year ago by you.
Yes, ma'am.
And also, more recently, that she had a hissy fit about something and threw a potted plant at your car, causing some damage.
Yes.
Ms. Kelly says that while you were generous to her over the course of your relationship, there were never any loans, and she has no clue as to what you're talking about with regard to damaging your car. Who is this person, Ms. Kelly?
This is my boyfriend now.
Does he have any particular knowledge of this case?
He does.
About what?
Basically, when we had broken off the engagement, Dan had become very upset with the whole thing, and he had come to my house making threats, trying to get into my house, and he was there. And
well, that has nothing to do with this case.
Right. So basically,
basically, he's just here as eye candy.
Whatever.
What's the matter? Isn't that right?
Eye candy.
All right. When were you and Miss Kelly engaged?
We were engaged on January 5th, 2004.
For how long?
We were engaged until February 20th of 2004.
And when were these loans, Mr. Cruz?
Loans were done at various times throughout the relationship.
Mr. Cruz, let's get to the biggies.
Sure.
Let's try this. Nothing under $100. I have a $100 threshold that I'm going to hear, sir.
I guarantee there's nothing under $100, Your Honor.
Perfect.
Okay.
Right. Give me the date. Give me what it was for.
Okay. The first one, Your Honor, was for rent that I paid for in May of 2003.
And how much was that,
That
sir?
was for $400.
Tell me the conversation that took place.
The conversation?
Yes.
Okay. I asked her, I said, do you have the money for the rent? And she said she did not have the money for the rent. And she asked if I could front it for her. I said, sure, I'd be willing to do that, but you're going to have to pay me back.
Okay. Now, do you remember that May of 2003?
I did not receive my check through the mail yet, and he did propose to, like, not lend me the money, but to pay for my portion of it.
Okay, Miss Kelly, let's stop there. You say your check didn't come in the mail.
Right.
What check are we talking about?
My disability check.
How much did you get from disability?
I get about $1,000 a month.
What's the nature of your disability?
Mentally have stress, a lot of stress. Basically, I was fired from a previous job for sexual harassment, and from that, it caused me a lot of damage. And so I went to see, I was going to fight against them and sue them.
All right, so you received Social Security disability. Do you still?
Actually, no. As of a few weeks ago, no.
Now, your check hadn't arrived yet. So you must have said to Mr. Cruz, my check hasn't come yet. My check hasn't come yet. Can you front the money for me?
I don't even think I went as far as asking him that. It was, you know, he paid for a lot of things for me.
No, I don't want to hear a lot of things. Listen, I'm a very organized person. We're talking about May of 2003
Did I ask him?
and your rent. And your rent. So if you were accustomed to paying your rent out of your disability check and your check was late, the common sense would be, can you pay the rent, and when my check comes, I'll give it back to you. That's common sense. I mean, that's what one would think of what was said.
Correct.
Right. And you paid the $400, your share of the rent. Did you ever get your check?
Yeah.
Did you give him back the $400?
I've tried, and he would not accept it because he said that he didn't want it.
Okay. Now, when was the next loan you made to her, sir?
December of 2003. I loaned her money for a couple of sets of car repairs, actually. First repair was December 18th of 2003. That was for $227.
Right.
The other one was December 20th, 2003. That was for $180.
Any other loans, sir?
In January 2004, there was money that I loaned her for medical expenses. I had gotten back from a cruise, okay, so I took her to the urgent care. The cost for that was $237. She did not have the money to pay it. I told her once again I would loan her the money for the $237, but that she'd have to pay me back for that as well.
And those are the loans you're talking about?
There's also one more loan. I'm sorry, I neglected to bring it up. It was in August of 2003. It was also for repairs for her car, okay, and that was for $281.68.
And you want to tell me about the damage to your car, sir?
January 19, 2004, I was on my way to work. First Monday back from the cruise. On the way to work, I was rear-ended by a lady. At the time, the car was still drivable, okay, but I knew I was going to have to take it into the shop, but knowing that it was going to be in there for at least a week or so, I didn't take it right away. January 23rd, she and I had an argument. She got upset with me. She went outside. My car was parked in front of her house. She took a potted plant. She broke it on my car. Now, I had made an insurance claim on the damage that the other lady caused me. However, I didn't make an insurance claim on what she had caused because I didn't want there to be any type of legal recourse against her as far as
Because you were
criminal.
engaged.
Right.
And you stayed engaged for another month.
That's correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Bill Cruz says ex-fiancée Shannon Kelly owes for unpaid loans and for smashing a potted plant on top of his car.
Okay, let's hear about the potted plant, madam.
I don't know what he's talking about, actually. We fought all the time.
So you mean he's making this story up?
Or if somebody else did it, I don't. He never I mean,
no.
There's. I don't know what he's.
Anything else you want to tell me?
Yes, that this is not true. With the car repairs, he called me and said that he had a surprise for me, that he had recovered some funds that he wasn't aware of, and that he wanted to get my car out. And I said no, I didn't want to. I'd rather pay for it myself, and he insisted. Okay, he decided to do that. When I did get my check, again, I did give him back $200 because I didn't want anything from him.
Why didn't you want anything from him?
Because he would use it against me and throw it up to me and make me feel terrible in
What
fights.
kind of work do you do, sir?
I'm a branch manager for a finance company.
Are you currently employed, Miss Kelly?
No.
And how do you support yourself, on disability?
I was up until recently, so now I'm going to find a job.
Do you live with this gentleman here?
Yes, I do.
Do you work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a carpenter.
Okay. Here's your problem, Mr. Cruz. Of the 5 loans that you've made to her over the course of a 6 or 7 month period, she had not made any payments. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's not a loan. That's what you give to your girlfriend. I find that it's unreasonable to believe that if, in fact, this engagement came to fruition and developed into a marriage, that we wouldn't be standing here today. Right?
Well, that's...
Not well.
Not necessarily.
Well, not necessarily. I'm telling you that if you and Miss Kelly married, we would not be standing here today. You're angry. She didn't give you a lot of money. You gave her a lot of money. I mean, altogether, it doesn't amount to a whole lot of money over the course of a relationship that spanned a couple of years. But those aren't loans. Loans get repaid. Even marginally, they get repaid. And anybody who's... You're in finance?
Yes.
Doesn't loan more money when the first loan hasn't been paid. And doesn't loan money for a third time when the first two loans haven't been paid, and doesn't loan money for the fourth time when the first three loans haven't been paid. Because if you do that, you're soon going to be out of business. Unless you're operating from your heart, because you're involved in a relationship. And then it no longer becomes an arm's length contract. It becomes a situation where, well, if the relationship works out, so it's over. But if it doesn't, I don't want to be out this money. So, Mr. Cruz, get over it. Let me see pictures of the car where she dropped the potted plant. What's in that box?
Unfortunately, Your Honor, I don't have pictures, okay? And the reason being for that is because she called me the next day. And she apologized to me for doing it. And when I went to her house, I showed her what she had done to the car. She didn't realize it. And she looked at it, she said, "I'm sorry." She said, "But you are lucky. I meant to put it through your windshield." And I said, "Well, if you put it through the windshield, it probably would have cost less." I don't have pictures, but I do have the pieces of the pot that she broke on it. That's what's in the box.
You think, sir, that that I'm going to look at the pieces of the pot without pictures of the car? Mr. Cruz.
Yes.
And she called you up and she apologized. Let me ask you this question, Mr. Cruz. Between the 23rd of January, when she caused this damage to your car, is that what you told me?
Yes.
Okay. And February 20th of 2004, you were in fact engaged. Is that right?
Yes.
Were you intimate during that period?
Yes.
You forgave her. You forgave her, sir. She feels as if you forgave her. I feel as if you forgave her. You got to put a period and say, I'm moving on. And whatever money it was, it's a cheap lesson. And I'm very, very lucky that I didn't hook my wagon to this star, which would have caused you in the long run in your life, Mr. Cruz, far greater damage. You could have done the absolutely unthinkable and stupid thing to have married this lady.
True.
Right?
That's true.
Instead, this gentleman's going to marry her. It's going to be his problem.
Let him deal with it.
Right? Right.
Yeah, let him deal with it.
That's all. Good luck, sir.
Yep.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's getting hers now. I mean, you can see with what she's with and what she's doing now, which is nothing, and what she'll always become in her life is nothing.
Basically, he just wants to, demolish whatever life that I do have.
She was cheating on me with the gentleman she brought in the courtroom today.
He was tried to commit suicide a couple times over me. He even was put into the hospital for 4 days in the mental institution for throwing me across the room and bruising my tailbone. Look out for freeloaders like this one over here. She's going to cost you a lot of money, cost you a lot of heartache, and she laughs over here, but I'm going to get the last laugh when I see what her life has become.
22-year-old carpenter Gregory Korthel is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old store co-manager Emily DeTora, for an unpaid loan to buy a Mitsubishi Lancer. Emily says Gregory wanted her to have a safe vehicle.
Come to order, all rise. This is case number 122 on the calendar in the matter of Korthel versus DeTora. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Korthel, the defendant was your girlfriend, and I gather from your complaint that for a period of time you lived with her in your mother's house.
That's correct.
How old was she when you were living with her in your mother's house?
20 years old.
Is that a question? I don't know the answer.
20 years old.
20. According to you, in March of last year, you loaned her money to put down on a car. She needed a car.
That's correct.
You broke up the end of November, and you want your money back.
That's correct.
And the defendant says that you did, in fact, give her some money, but that was a gift. So, how long had you been living with her when you gave her this money?
Approximately 3 months.
And how did it come about that she moved in with you in your mother's house?
She got kicked out of her mom's house about 2 months after we started dating because we were going on vacation and her mom didn't want her to go. So his mom kicked her out. So
Just a minute. Why didn't she want her to go, Mr.
Because she didn't think it was right, because we were going out so soon into the relationship, and she didn't want her to go. Even though I told her that my parents were going to be there, we were going to get a hotel with my parents, so there was no unsupervised sleeping with or anything like that.
And her mother said, I don't want her to go. You only know her for a month.
For a month, yes.
And she went anyway.
She went, yes.
So her mother kicked her out.
Yes.
You live under my roof, you abide by my rules. Right?
Actually, my mother told me she kicked me out because she said I was old enough to live out on my own, because I was going to be 20.
Nah. Nah. That's not true. His story's much better, much more logical. So she moved into your mother's house. When she moved in, did she have her own room or did she share your room?
She shared my room with me, on her own bed in my mom's house. That was the whole thing for moving in with us. My parents will allow us to do that. That's the only way she'd be able to move in, if she had her own bed, but in the same room, because it was a small house. After the fact that she moved in with us, she was at a job. Her car got stolen from her job. They found it. It was damaged. I said, why don't we just go out and finance a car and get you in a new car so you don't have to worry about that. Soon after that, her job fired her, and then she was jobless for 2 months. She was jobless for about 2 months. And I kept on telling her to go out and get a job, get a couple applications a day. You know, I can't pay all your bills for you. And we finally financed that car.
I thought you financed the car before that, sir.
We financed the car before that.
Yeah, and then she lost her job. Isn't that what you told me?
Then she lost her job, yes.
Right. Don't confuse me.
Okay.
You know, I know I'm not as young as you are, but be kind to older people. You know, try not to confuse them. First, you gave her part of the down payment for the car.
I paid for the whole...
How much did you give her?
I gave her $25.61. Was the first original. I wrote the check out for that. Then that Friday, she paid me $1,400.
I actually paid him $1,600, and that was for my down payment, because he wanted to pay the taxes.
How much did you give her for the down payment?
I gave her, minus the money she gave me, was $1,200.
Go ahead, so?
Before I said I would give her the money, I said, the only way that I'm going to do this is that you agreed to pay me back here and right now before that. And she said, yes, I will agree to pay you back, but it's not going to be it's not going to be right away. It's going to be over the next couple of months. I said, that's fine. There's no problem with that.
Did you say that to him, Mr. Torah?
No.
What did you say to him?
I was going to put my taxes, title, and registration in with my financing, and he didn't want me to. I did pay. I have a duplicate for $1,600.
Well, what did you say to him about the down payment that he put in?
What happened was he paid for the whole thing, and I paid him back for the down payment, and he was going to pay for the taxes, title, and registration as a gift, like we were going out.
That's not true.
Now, Mr. Corthell, when you started telling me this story, sir, you said after her car was damaged, why don't we go ahead and get you a better car? Now, what part was your we?
We was just go to look and find her something else.
I actually wanted I wanted like an older car. I didn't want a brand new one.
Nobody twisted your arm.
I don't even want the car I have. Like, I didn't even want it. I went back to the dealership 2 weeks later to see if I could trade it in, because Greg was like, well, there was 3 cars and they were all Lancers. The only thing I got to pick out was the color.
Now, Mr. Corthell, you continued to live with the defendant?
She continued to live with me.
Listen to me. March, April, right?
Yes.
May.
Yep.
June.
That's correct.
July.
Yep.
August.
August.
September.
September.
October.
Yes.
Most of November until the 4th week in November. Thanksgiving.
No, the beginning of November, she moved out.
I thought you said it was Thanksgiving.
That's when we broke up.
Oh.
She moved out the beginning of November because we couldn't get along too well.
Okay. 9 months.
9 months.
How much money did she give you back in March?
March, she didn't give me nothing at all.
April?
Nothing at all.
May?
$10.
For what?
$10 just to pay me back because she said she would.
June?
June, she gave me $20.
July?
Nothing.
August?
$200 because she sold her Cavalier to the dealer, or not the dealer, the mechanic that was going to repair it.
September?
$10.
October?
Nothing. There's nothing been since.
November. Now, Mr. Corthell, I would like you to tell me how you remember the various months that she gave you $10 and $20.
Right here, I got it all written down.
Let me see.
Every time.
Mr. Corthell, Do you think I'm a fool?
No, it's exactly. She saw
Did
every
you say,
time.
just a second, do you think I'm a fool, sir?
No, I don't think you're a fool at all.
This was all written at the same time.
Yes.
Do you
that's
understand
correct.
what I'm saying? This was all written at the same time.
Well, I have the original copy if you want. Like,
oh, yeah, I want to see it.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Friend Emily DeTora owes for a loan to buy a Mitsubishi Lancer. Emily claims Gregory gave her the money.
What's $174, sir?
That was for, I paid for our excise tax because she didn't have the money at the time to pay it, and it was going to be late. She asked me if I could pay it, and she told me that she'll pay me back after she got money from
And that's what the $200 was for, that I paid him when I sold my other car.
What's the $6 for, sir?
I paid for a phone. She didn't have enough money to put a down payment on a phone, so I had her phone underneath my name, and she kept on paying me every month, and that was the remainder of the money that she didn't pay me for 1 month.
Are these people, this Russ and Jason, these are other monies that were loaned out by you to these
That's
other people?
correct.
Interesting. Did you ever see this piece of paper?
Yes.
When did you see it?
One day when I was cleaning the room, I found it on the floor near his night table.
Did you ask him about it?
No, I knew about it. Like, I knew that he kept records of, like, his friends.
Okay. Mr. Corthell, initially I didn't believe you. Now I do. I believe that you kept very good records. I certainly wouldn't want to be married to you. But I think that you kept very good records. I think that she was aware that you were keeping track of the money that she owed you.
Is that on there?
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is, my dear.
Card, like, that was not something I had to do. I did not have to pay him back. Like, that's something he wanted to do because he wanted me to have that car.
Okay. You're driving the car?
Yes.
Who broke up with whom?
He broke up with me because he was actually cheating on me. He was seeing...
That's not true.
He was seeing a girl that he actually bowls with, and he brought her to the movies like the night he broke up with me.
See, your mother was right. Right?
Right.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,150. You got to pay him back for the car. That's all.
Why does that excuse? You may step out.
I think that it went wrong. He lied.
She agreed to pay me back, and she was saying that she wasn't going to do it. It was a gift, which wasn't true.
There's a lot of ex-boyfriends that are cheap. There's just not a lot of ones that are stupid enough to go say it on TV.
She didn't pay a dime. All she had to do was help clean up and walk the dog.
He cheated on me.
She thinks I cheated on her. I never did.
He's a jerk.
I'm always going to help somebody out, but I'm just going to look at it again before I do.
If your boyfriend's cheap, walk away.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hartunian versus Godbond, step forward, please.
Massage therapist Carla Hartunian is suing political science professor Najib Godbond for medical bills and pain and suffering. Carla says Najib's 10-year-old daughter ran into her with a shopping cart.
Miss Hartunian, who is this lady?
This is my daughter. She was there right after the impact with the shopping cart.
Mr. Godbond, this is your daughter. You're 9?
10.
Okay. According to your complaint, this little girl was shopping at a food store at the same time you were shopping. She was shopping with her father. And there was an accident, and she hit you with the shopping cart that she was rolling in your ankle, back of your ankles. And you are claiming injury to your ankles, to your back, requiring medical care, loss of wages, pain and suffering, etc., to the tune of $5,000.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says this was an accident. He's sorry that it happened. He agreed to pay your medical bills if there was a problem, but he thinks that you're trying to scam him.
Yes.
When did this accident happen, Ms. Cartoonini?
June 15th, 2003.
And where were you shopping?
In the produce section of Walmart.
And you were shopping in the same place?
Yes.
Tell me what happened.
I was standing still looking at strawberries, Your Honor, and I heard running footsteps. Before I could turn around to see what it was, I was struck in the back and in the ankle. I snapped backwards and went almost down. I was holding my shopping cart, so I did not go all the way down. And the pain was immediate and excruciating.
Okay. Just so you were hit in the buttocks?
Yes, ma'am.
And in the ankle?
Yes, ma'am.
Did either of those two areas bleed?
No, but the ankle...
Just a second. Just answer my question.
No,
either one of those two areas bleed? So the answer is no.
No.
Did you have any black and blue marks on your buttocks?
A small one.
Did you take a photograph?
Not of that.
Did you have any black and blue marks on your ankles?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you take any photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see the photograph. You can step up because Bert probably had an emergency. You don't look dangerous to me. Thank you. So it wasn't both ankles, it was one ankle.
One ankle.
One ankle that is clearly, it looks as if it's black and blue. So the extent of your injury, visually, was a black and blue ankle. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, what happened when you were hit? Did Mr. Gadband come up to you immediately?
Yes.
And what did he say?
He was very nice. He told me he was sorry and wanted to know exactly what happened. I told him I was crying at the time and in very much pain.
Where were you in pain? In your ankle?
In my ankle, right.
Okay. Go ahead.
He was very, very nice. Over and over, he reiterated, it's going to be fine, it's going to be all right, I'll take care of it. Do you want to go to the doctor? He said, I'm a professor at the university, I'm a responsible person. Don't worry. He said, it's fine, I'll take care of it. Very, very nice.
Good. What happened?
Well, the Walmart people brought me ice and a chair, and I sat down in the chair and put the ice on my ankle. I sat there for about 15 minutes. The pain started subsiding a little bit, and I stood and I saw that the ankle was not broken, that I could put weight on it. So Mr. Godband said, if you have any trouble, if you need to go to the doctor, I will pay for it. He wrote down his number and his name on the back of my grocery list.
Great. So far he's done everything right. So, I assume you went to a doctor.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume you had medical bills.
Yes, ma'am.
From going to the doctor. So did you call him and tell him about your medical bills?
Yes.
When did you call him?
Maybe less than a week later.
Okay. And?
He was not nice anymore.
Go ahead.
He was very mean and hateful.
Well, just a second. What did you say to him?
I told him that after I got home that night, I began having pains in my back. And the next day when I woke up, I could hardly stand up. It was very, very painful. So I did go to the doctor that day. The doctor did a chiropractic adjustment, did x-rays, told me to ice the back. After I'd gone to the doctor 2 or 3 times...
You're talking about a chiropractic?
Chiropractic and medical, both.
Okay. You have any medical records?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see your medical records from your medical doctor.
Okay. And this.
How did you find the chiropractor?
My daughter had used him before, and he was a very gentle, good chiropractor.
How did you find him? You found him through recommendation?
Through my daughter, yes, ma'am.
And did you, after June 15th, 2003, consult with an attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Did the attorney take your case?
He was not ready to take the case. He did not refuse the case. He did not take the case. It was in limbo.
You went to see another attorney?
Eventually.
When?
About 6 months later.
So I gather that the doctor that you went to see, not the chiropractor, you consulted after you saw the attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
And prior to having this accident with this 9-year-old child, you suffer from scoliosis. According to what you told the doctor, you were symptom-free as a result of your scoliosis, and now you have a backache.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but the only physiological problem that you could see as a result of being hit by this shopping cart was this ankle, correct?
That you could see.
Right. Okay. So when you spoke to Mr. Gadband, how much money did you tell him that you wanted?
I only asked him to pay my medical bills, Your Honor. Okay. That's why I couldn't understand why.
Good. And what were your medical bills? Let me see what your medical bills are. These are all the medical bills that you have?
I could no longer afford to go after he said he wouldn't pay.
You have $182 for physical therapy rehab. You have $88 for physical therapy rehab and $85 for physical therapy rehab. That's what you asked him to reimburse you for. But now you want $5,000 from Mr. Gadban.
Yes, ma'am.
Explain to me. I don't get it.
I am a massage therapist, Your Honor, and for several days after this accident, I could not give massages. I had to cancel appointments.
Okay, show me your book to show me how many appointments you had to cancel for the next few days.
I did not bring my book. I brought affidavits from the people that I canceled with.
I'll see those affidavits.
The quality of my service changed, Your Honor. I couldn't...
You may say that to me. I said you had a massage from there. Okay. You have affidavits here. One of them says that your massage wasn't as smooth. I'm not paying any attention to that. You canceled, according to these affidavits, 2 appointments where you were supposed to make $100.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes.
That's $455. Okay. And?
I would like to continue the treatment. My lumbar vertebrae are still not in the shape they were in before the accident.
I have no idea about that. Show me the x-rays and bring me an expert.
Crazy history facts they would not tech in school. In 1944, during World War II, 9 American pilots were captured by Japanese forces. These airmen were part of bombing raids over Japan, targeting strategic locations. Fortunately, their planes were shot down, and they were taken as prisoners of war. Captured pilots endured harsh conditions and severe treatment in Japanese custody. This event highlighted the brutal realities of the Pacific Theater, where both sides suffered significant losses. The story of these pilots reflects the broader struggle and sacrifice experienced by many during the conflict, underscoring the human cost of war.